waging for the last 2 years. And those asylum seekers or economic migrants who make it from Sudan to the UK have a 99% chance of being given leave to remain. So I spent several hours talking to immigration chiefs here in Benghazi on the east side of Libya. The Libyan National Army has a very good grip on the immigration problem, albeit fighting against a huge crisis with limited resources. There is a very, very clear process of giving people proper health checks, the life-saving care that they need, and then working out where it is exactly that they've come from. Their message to the UK is that you are fueling this problem. You are effectively advertising a great new life for people from sub-Saharan Africa. They actually said, you know, what do you think happens when a guy from Sudan comes up through Libya and makes his way all the way to the UK and gets put in a luxurious hotel and provided with everything? And make no mistake, it is a perilous journey. We see it from the end point. We see the channel crossing as the dangerous bit. But actually where these journeys begin is in the hot desert. Many tens of kilometers have to be covered on foot by these migrants. And as many as 1 in 4 do not make it. That means bodies in the desert. The Libyan authorities are having to recover bodies in the desert. About the UK and how much awareness. Please understand the scale of what we are dealing with here with very, very limited resources. Once again, you know, people come in from charities, from NGOs, they use warm words, and the authorities here told me the only thing that we ever get is maybe a few toothbrushes and some nappies for the babies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good for this today? Good morning, my friends. A very big welcome. What is it, Wednesday, the 7th of December. Charlie Rowley on the way. He's just getting himself geared up to review the papers of the next hour. But just, I don't know, welcome to Wednesday. I got up this morning, thought it was going to be freezing cold, put on too many layers, and I've been sweating like a pig for the last 2 hours. There is, though, I have to warn you, a storm approaching the United Kingdom. It's going to bring 8 inches of snow or rain wherever you live, and it's going to apparently decimate everything that's supposed to work in the United Kingdom that doesn't. But listen, it is the home of Alarm Clock Brits, this breakfast show. Whatever you're doing this morning, are you out and about already? Are you gearing up for a long, long day? How do you view what's going on in the world? Lots of serious stuff, some funny stuff as well, and as ever, your involvement, please, on the show. 0344 499 1000 is the number for those voice notes. You need to get them in nice and early. Christian, he's sprightly this morning, whereas Mark, Big Mark, the man that pushes the buttons, has had a haircut, I think, by the council, to be honest. It's not looking great. I wish I had a camera around that way. Talking of which, we'll talk about banter in the workplace later. But Charlie Rowley, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks for having me. And Happy New Year. Can you still say that? I've not seen you yet.
I've no idea.
Happy New Year. I've said it now.
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
Can I just throw something very... We're going to talk about Donald Trump at some point wanting to take over Greenland. Thank you to Christian Mitchell, who's just put up my screen. The capital of Greenland is Nuuk. Why does that appeal to me at 6:05 in the morning?
Well, it appeals to Donald Trump as well, doesn't it, I suppose? It's a funny old one, isn't it?
I noticed he said that actually today, we might as well go with it straight on the front page of the Times, but he says, and I quote, that he wants to take over Greenland in 3 years. Now, I, as a sort of political guru, is this bluff? Because, I mean, this will blow NATO out the water. I don't want to spend too long on this, but it's extraordinary. Is it just posturing?
I think it's potentially was posturing, but I think now it's probably a serious thing that Trump thinks about. When you look at what's happened in Venezuela and he's actually gone in to remove Maduro there, I think he actually feels, right, we need to strengthen our capabilities. And where Greenland is, it is actually in North America. It is in that sort of side of the, I don't know, that map. If you get out an atlas.
An atlas.
So it is it's closer to the US, I think, than it is to Europe anyway. It's just an independent, a bit of land that's owned, run by the Denmark and the people of Denmark and the Kingdom of Denmark.
Very cold, very miserable and very sad. Let's talk about that later on. Let's get to the main news story of the day. This is all over every newspaper front of the brilliant current bun, one for the road. Drink drive limit under Labour plans could be to cut a pint. If you have a drink, even a pint, it could result quite seriously in you being prosecuted. They're thinking of putting breathalyzer-type machines on cars. Really want your response to this today. I find myself not in a difficult position, but as ever with the audience, what do you make of this? Some will say, absolutely right for road safety. Many more, I suspect, will say, two things. One, this is another blow to an already struggling industry, the pub industry, and we've destroyed them under this government with NI increases and workers' rights and all these sorts of things. And yes, I am completely against anybody who drinks and drives, but we come back to the decision about independent thinking. Is this another example, if you like, of something that's good generally, but another infringement of our liberties? This is more nanny state crap out of this Labour government. That's really how I see it. How do you see it?
Yeah, it's not a priority, I don't think, and I say that obviously understanding that many people who might have lost someone who's been in a car accident and someone at the hands of drink driving, but cutting, if you tend to be, if you're a drink driver, tends to be, and you've had 5, 6, 7 pints, you're way over the limit. It's not just this one or two business. So I think most people can stick to the limit. If they have 1 or 2 drinks and they're below the limit, they can drive perfectly well. It's about tolerance as well. It's not just looking at the measurements and saying, right, we're now going to cut the measurement from 35 grams, whatever it is, per 100 ml to now 22, which might make you then over the limit if you just have 1 pint. I think most people who just have 1 or 2 pints are able to then drink.
So I'm thinking the sensible, hard-working Brit who's been working all week and wants to go to the country pub for a couple of pints over an afternoon with their kids, and we've all done that. Suddenly you run the risk of being prosecuted, and what is that going to do for the pub industry? I'm a believer. I was watching a clip, don't shout at me please, of Thatcher last night, and she was talking about how government shouldn't control people's lives. It's about owning your own house and making your own decisions. And surely this is an example, is it not, of a government that... And I liked how you started. I didn't know, it didn't sound right. I didn't know how you were going to start your answer. I think it is an infringement. I think it takes away people's ability to make their own minds. I think we're saying to people, you're not intelligent enough to make your own mind up about not drinking. But more than that, isn't there bloody well more important things for this disastrous government to be focused on? It strikes me as, and I could be totally out of order here, love to hear from you this morning about this, is it just political posturing? It's not getting to the heart of what's wrong with this country, which I'm afraid to bring it up already at 6:10, is migrants. It is a problem with migrants, with the National Health Service, with our borders, with almost everything is wrong. Our army, our ability to defend ourselves, and yet we've got a government in dire trouble saying, I want to make, I'm doing that voice again, I want to make sure you only have 1 pint. So I understand the optics, but I think it's deeper than that, and I think it's an infringement of people's right to make their own mind up, really.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. With all the other things that are going on, this is probably an attempt to try and get some news out there, to try and cause a conversation. But ultimately, if you're basically cutting from 2 pints to 1 to be able to drive, that's tinkering. That's not dealing with, if you want to punish people for drink driving that are way over the limit, well, you just increase prison sentence, although we don't have the prison places.
Well, we would if we built prisons. I prefer them to stand up and say, I'm going to build more prisons.
Well, exactly.
That's what I'm being serious.
Totally. So you deal with it in that respect. But it's part of a package of, over 70s now having to be tested.
Can I also salute, on the back of this story, there seem to be an increasing number of pubs across the United Kingdom who are being kicked in the bits by NI increases under under Rachel Thieves. I mean, you know, workers' rights. It's a nightmare trying to run a business, especially a pub, which is about to be crushed even more. And a lot of, have you seen a lot of these pubs are saying to the politicians, you cannot and will not come here. Let's go back to 2021. It's my favourite ever clip. Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the opposition, tries to enter a pub of his own volition. Have a watch, have a listen.
Man is not allowed in my pub. No, Laura. I'm not going to physically hurt him. That man... Oi! That's assault. I am not bothering you. I am not bothering him. That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Calm yourself down. Get out of my pub. Calm down.
That could become, of course, the slogan for all of us. Get out of my country. Keir Starmer being unceremoniously bundled out of a pub in September 2021 before he became the worst Prime Minister we've ever seen. But it is a blitz. The Sun are calling it Labour's B-test blitz. I'm not against safety on roads, and I think you're absolutely right to make that point. But if you look at the Telegraph, which nobody's given me, I haven't got the Telegraph. Have you got... Oh, yes, I have got the Telegraph. I want the Telegraph page 1. Drink drive changes to kill off rural pubs. I think that's the point, isn't it?
Exactly, and you know, hopefully that man there that you just played a clip of, that was a perfect impression of Barbara Windsor. I've got visions of Barbs being all over the country saying, "Get out of my pub." That scene from EastEnders.
Oh, Barbara Windsor! I've got a great story about Barbara Windsor.
But you know, get out of my pub. You know,
we met in a nightclub in Marbella once. Bless her, she's proper.
Well, there's a bless
her. God rest her soul.
Yeah. Well, there's
I don't know how we went from drink driving to Barbara Windsor. What else?
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. There's an assumption, I think, probably amongst, well, as ever, with the North London, maybe Islington setup, that everybody lives in a city. And everybody can just, you know, you should be driving in London, it's too packed, it's too crowded, so, you know, you shouldn't be drinking. But rural communities, where obviously, you know, your pub could be, you know...
I want to say this straight away to you, 6:10, wherever you are in the United Kingdom this morning, what do you make of this? Do you agree? I mean, it's a difficult one. One for the road. Drink drive limit could be cut to a pint. Is that, safety-wise, great? Is it an infringement of our liabilities, or rights, rather? But more than that, are we now getting a government to say, you will be told what you are going to do? And what's happened to the ability to make your own decisions? And if you make the wrong decisions, be punished for them. But more than that, do you own a pub? Do you work in a pub? Is it going to decimate still further your industry? Because we seem to be absolutely ruining industries. As ever, if you want to send a voice note, 0344 499 1000. Your text messages 87222. Morning, Shawnee says, good morning, JK and Rowley. So Keith Starling wants to fit a breathalyser in our cars. Well, he can pee off. Brilliant. Yet another one of our liberties being removed by this cretin. Welcome to the Socialist Communist Republic of the United Kingdom, where Big Brother controls everything. And I think a lot of people would agree with Sean on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the idea, he's absolutely right, they're picking up on the idea that the breathalyser could be built into your car. I mean, it plays into this whole massive overreach of government. So whether it's ID cards, whether it's big data sources, whether it's now AI that can be, you know, you can look at a video and think, my God, did that really happen? And of course it didn't, because it's AI, but it looks so genuine. You then only have to have a data...
I am AI.
You are, and...
I'm not real.
The most beautiful AI I've seen.
Can I give you a bit of a... this is going to cause Krista to drop his headset. I was driving in with the delectable Ben this morning, he drives me, and he made a point that is really relevant. So we're talking here about breathalyzers potentially in cars, and yet we don't have the ability to stop bloody cyclists going through red lights. Why can't we put chips in all cycles that are sold, and a chip in all the systems whereby these, honestly, they do my head in. They go straight in front, they go through red light, and nobody does anything at all. Is this, again, is it against our rights? What about the motor industry? What's this going to do to the motor industry? I don't know. Will people stop buying cars? Will it improve? I don't know. It just, to me, seems to be... It seems to be an attack on our liberty. It seems to be against, I don't know, common sense, really. And more than that, I think it's another kick in the bits for any person who wants to build a business in this country.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And all the issues that you talked about, the businesses will struggle anyway with the increase in business rates, increasing the minimum wage, no bad thing, but that coupled with the business rates and national insurance contributions is a massive hit to the pub industry. And you've got to look, you know, people in government need to, it's all very well coming up with ideas like this to cause a debate, perhaps, and make us think about things, but you've got to look at trends as well. Young people who are now starting to learn to drive are drinking less. They're more interested in going to the gym and their health and all the rest of it. So the idea that there is this upcoming generation of big old drinkers who are going to be, menaces on the roads, who are going to be road ragers on our streets, that's not happening. It's the reverse. Pardon the pun. It's the reverse.
Very good. Did you see that? Christian's looking very serious this morning. Yeah.
That's a bit of an eye roll. but it's true. So things are going in the opposite direction. So we're not seeing large numbers of young people come on the roads that are going to be drinking as much. So I do think this is one where people should be able to exercise their own judgment. If you go to the pub after work, or
is this basically saying we don't trust you to exercise your own judgment, or we don't believe you're intelligent enough? Is this about? Let's get Pete. Actually, we've got a voice note straight away on Pete. Morning, Pete. What do you make of this, pal?
Good morning, Jeremy. This pub's under threat thing. Now, with all this trying to restrict us from moving around, perhaps that's what they don't want us to do. Number one, they don't want us to go out in cars visiting pubs because it might take us out of our own areas. And number two, isn't there a certain demographic who votes for Labour that do not like alcohol? So really, right, he's pandering to them as well, isn't he? I'll tell you what, it should be every shop banning that man from going through the door because the prices he's caused, him and Richard III, and we haven't heard much about her lately either, have we? Yeah, if you don't hear from him, there's something suspicious going on. Yeah, Starmer, he just wants to do away with pubs, doesn't he? Simple as that. Nasty piece of work.
Brilliant. I love how happy my viewers and listeners are. Can I take Pete's point, though, about Richard III? This is Rachel Thieves. I read a really interesting article this morning, again by the excellent Quentin Letts in the Daily Mail, that said that Ed Millipede Miliband, the scariest man in the world with those big teeth, was strutting into Prime Minister's Question Times or the Commons yesterday with all his flunkies. And there are massive rumours that he will be the next Chancellor of the Exchequer and that will be Starmer, feeding her to the wolves, if you like, but making sure that the person who people think could replace him is nearer to him than far away from him. Heard anything about that?
I've heard rumours about
him in charge of our money, Miliband. Jesus, man.
Well, he could be in charge of the country. He is someone that's constantly referenced as someone that could take over from Starmer if there are enough Labour MPs to unseat the Prime Minister. I mean, this is the problem here. We all think, and that the Prime Minister's out of his depth.
Even his own MPs think he's rubbish.
Exactly, but it's so much harder in the Labour ranks to unseat their Prime Minister because you've got to have just because of the number of MPs, they've got to have 81 that publicly say, I'm backing somebody else. And that could be whether it's Andy Burnham, but of course he's not an MP. It could be Wes Streeting, but he divides the party because he doesn't appeal to the currently.
Miliband is somebody that scares me, though.
And that's the thing. You could, we talk about Starmer for all of his faults, rightly so, and of which there are plenty, but we could end up with someone even worse. Can you imagine that prospect?
Back to this story that is dominating this morning. Labour's idea that they should actually put breathalyzer gadgets in your cars, that they should actually change this. One for the road is the headline. Basically, drink drive limit could be a pint only, right? Loads of response. And just to nail it from Charlie and I, it's really important to point out, we all want safety on the roads. We all think it is outrageous and fundamentally abhorrent when anybody drink drives, causes an accident, right? But what about your liberty to make your own decision? What about the pub industry? Good morning to Paul. He says, JK, regards this drink driving, it's more nanny dictatorship from this useless government, again, sucking the fun out of life and ruining yet another industry. Good morning to Pete. Destroy rural pubs and it knocks even more tourist days out of the calendar, plus it's yet a further attack on the countryside. Nick's in Loughborough. Morning, Nick. This government is waging a war on pubs simply because it wants them gone. Pubs have always been working man's parliaments and as such are considered by our dictator as hives of sedition. Remember, this is why pubs were shut during lockdown, probably not in order to quell the spread of a virus, but to stop sensible people discussing their depressing lives. Jesus God. David, morning, Jez. Drink limit. I suspect that this is a dead cat to divert the nation's attention from the West Midlands police scandal. This shows that the West Midlands police senior officers lied to Parliament and the nation. It is clear they are afraid of the Islamist element on their patch. This is the big furore about why that game was cancelled. I don't want to go off at that angle, but I will say this about so much of what Labour seems to do. We were talking the other day about conviction politicians. I just think that somebody says to Starmer every day, right, this focus group has said that it would be good if you talked about drink driving, or this focus group has said it'd be a good idea if you talked about the weather. And it just doesn't come across as genuine, does it? It's never genuine. It's never like, that's a good thing for safety. It's a bad thing for liberty. It's a terrible thing for pubs. But more than anything, is it the most important thing right now? Stop people coming to our country and screwing this country up, mate. Do that.
Exactly. Focus on the priorities. And the two things that have come out from those messages I've just thought about. One, you shouldn't change the law unless you can actually back it up. So, OK, reduce the drink driving limits from, say, 2 to 1 or whatever it's going to be. But can you police it? And you can't police it if the police are currently not doing what they should be doing already, which is tackling the shoplifting crisis that we've got in this country.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, there you are. We're going to cut a pint, but it's OK to walk willy-nilly into a shop, steal up to 200 quid. I mean, I saw the other day some footage, I think Christian played it. These guys walked in with like an empty green, one of those big bat bins that don't get collected. And just, the guy stood there, CCTV, and just beer, fags, whatever, just in and walked out.
Yeah.
I mean, deal with that.
Exactly. Trying to, I don't know, what are you going to do? Have a police vehicle sort of sat in a rural street and, you know, pull someone over because just by the margins they've had 2 pints instead of 1? That's just not, you know, that's not what our police should be doing. And the other point that people are saying is about the communities. Our communities are broken in Britain, it seems to me at the minute. And the idea that even now, if you are frustrated about what's going on, you could have had a dilapidated high street. You know, shops could have closed. You might have a migrant hotel in your area.
That later, by the way. Got a story for you.
The one place you want to go to is probably to see your community.
Want to go to.
Is the pub.
Mark in Norwich says Wetherspoons used to be great for a steak meal and a pint. Firstly, Labour lumbered them with so many extra costs they stopped selling steak. God, so miserable, this life of mine. Secondly, we won't be able to have a pint anymore. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. They're hell-bent on making our lives a misery in each and every way. Morning, Kitty.
It's from Kent here. I've actually had to pull over on my way to the station to go to work to earn money to pay for people who don't deserve it. Just to say that all the while I walk around London and locally in Kent and have the stench of marijuana coming from layabouts as they walk around blatantly breaking the law and smoking it, and they will be getting behind wheels, and there'll be wheels of cars, and they'll be operating machinery at some point if they ever actually got a job. I'm afraid that my little glass of Sancerre at the pub before I drive 5 miles home will not be going away. I will be doing what I want to do, and the people of Britain need to stop doing what this filthy communist government is dictating to them and start fighting back and saying, we will not comply with anything you say.
It's interesting she had to pull over, she was so angry, Kitty. You see, she's basically put the argument that if I want to have a glass of wine and then get in my car, I'm responsible enough as a human being to make my own decisions. And she makes the point about, which a lot of people were... I had it yesterday, somebody said to me, you do keep going on about migrants. Yeah, I do. Do you know why? Because our public services are stretched. There's crime and disorder on the street. People are scared. Our communities are being destroyed. And actually the thing about a pub is, you're right, it used to be the hub of the local community. That's gone. What do you make of this? Front page of almost every paper, one for the road. Labour's idea to drop the drink drive limit to a pint. Yes, we will keep saying all morning. The safety issue, very good. But what about making our own decisions? What about the priorities of there's other things you should be dealing with? What about the pub industry? More of that coming up. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. This is the JK Breakfast Show. We're going off. Are we going for a wee?
Well, yes.
Back in 3.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning, 6:25. It's Wednesday, the 7th of December. This is JK on Breakfast, live across the United Kingdom. You can, of course, listen. By the way, you can listen on DAB, of course, your smart speaker and all that, but you can download the brand new Talk app. It's fantastic. Have you done that? Because you said your dad listens on the Talk app. Is that right?
He does. I've downloaded it. He's got it. I imagine he's watching now.
Is he proud of you? I bet he is. We've got some footage of you and him doing karaoke at Christmas. Yes, we have. You're going to play that before 7.
You would lose a listener.
Mr. Rowley,
You would lose a listener.
Mr. Rowley, if you are listening, could you please send it to us? We want to see Charlie doing his best impression of Aretha Franklin. Right, the big news story of the day. It's in every newspaper, I keep saying it. One for the road. Front of the Sun, Labour's B-test blitz. We are hearing that Labour are going to announce today that they are going to basically put breathalyzers in cars. They're going to say about the drink-drive limit, 1 pint. Very important about safety. Don't think it's great for the rural pub industry, the pub industry in total. And also, what about your liberties? Two completely different views. Good morning to Paul. He said, my mum was a landlady, Jez, of many pubs. The amount of car keys she has taken off customers to stop them driving intoxicated is unbelievable. In my mind, zero tolerance is the only way to manage drink driving. Couple that with Rachel. Good morning, Jez and Charlie. Not meaning to upset anyone who lost someone due to a drunk driver, but we've got more important things to be worried about. This country is bloody well tearing itself apart. That's the issue here, isn't it? There's going to be two different views. Let's get to the phone lines. We're going to go to Sussex. Joanne, good morning. Welcome to the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Charlie Rowley is here. How you doing?
Good morning. I hope you're all okay.
What's your view on this, my darling?
I've got another part of the debate.
Okay.
I was riding my motorbike. I was hit head-on by a bus that pulled out from a side road. And my leg was half decapitated. But apart from that, I survived. So I was just so glad to survive the accident when I had nowhere to go but to hit this bus. It turned out the bus driver was an ex-police officer, and he blew 1 point under the limit for drinking. Had we had the new laws in, he would have been locked up and banned from driving.
It's interesting. And he wouldn't have, I mean, honestly, an ex-police officer driving a bus and under the limit, almost. I mean, I get your point. And obviously you got an injury, and obviously that's a concern. If you step back from your personal experience, do you think what do you think's more important? It's difficult to ask this without saying the wrong thing. Is the road safety, which is paramount, or are we saying to people there's got to be more about you to make your own minds up and be bloody well responsible?
The average adult is sensible.
Yeah. Is that it?
And the way in which he's coming across as a dictator.
Not a fan of Starmer, then?
Definitely not.
Oh, good. Well, listen, Happy New Year, and lovely to have you on. Tell your friends. That's Joanne in Sussex. She makes a good point. A police officer driving a bus?
Yeah, well, that's... well, exactly.
Jesus,
and
man.
so, but I think Joanne's absolutely right. Most people are sensible. But I would argue then, in that case, to support Joanne, which I would have thought would be perfectly obvious compared to what this debate's provoking, is if you are a professional driver, so if you are driving a bus, or if you drive a train, if you're a pilot, obviously I don't think you can drink. If you're in a professional job that is requiring you to be behind the wheel or operating machinery, for example, you can't drink.
No.
You shouldn't be drinking.
But this is, I mean, so Maggie in London says, Jez, Charlie, as much as I'm against drink driving, as we all are, sane adults, I believe it's all about control from this pathetic, weak, useless government. There comes a point where you have to say to yourself, and I said it to you in the office, I've probably said it already if I have, Thatcher talking about making our own decisions, right? It's not for the I don't need my government, this is how I see it, to tell me that I shouldn't be drunk when I'm driving. I would think that is the most ridiculous thing. I want my government to sort the problems. Say I look out the window here in London, and I hate to make it London-centric. Why the hell have we got a mayor who will do bugger all about crime, but spends his entire time talking about diversity and giving awards to TfL employees because they've turned up with a bush on their head? I don't even know. I saw the thing the other day. Priorities, right? That's not dissing what this is, but I don't need my government to tell me I shouldn't drink and drive. There will be a few. But you made a point, and Charlie, I mean, how many... There are accidents, sadly, when people aren't drunk. I find it abhorrent, drink driving. But there's got to be more important things, hasn't there?
Yeah, I think so, and that's why I think, most people will probably be on the side of the Sun, sort of thinking that, it could be the end, and, it's causing this debate. I just think most people are sometimes treated as if that they're not adults, that people can make up their own minds, and people will. I mean, to the point...
It's a socialist doctrine, though, to tell us how to live our lives. I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's their mantra. And look, there are... it might be difficult for a previous message where you had a landlady who had to take off however many keys from punters, but that's part of it. That's what you do.
Not everybody's perfect.
Not everybody's perfect, and that's what you've got to do, maybe, if you're a landlord or a landlady and you see someone that's had far too many drinks. It shouldn't happen. But also, I do know many people that would say, I know I've had too much to drink. Oh, I'm going to have to leave my car here. I'm going to have to come back and get it tomorrow. But that's all part of the conversation of life, isn't it?
Rob in Plymouth makes a great point. He says, guys, what about driving under the influence of drugs, which seems to be becoming more and more of a problem? Or another possibility, certain religions do not like alcohol. Just asking. The drugs thing, I mean, I remember years ago doing a programme on drug driving, actually. And there's plenty of people. I think that caller made the point, to voice note person earlier, about, people are off their heads driving. So where do you finish? See, it's just... And then you go, well, hold on a minute. You take drugs and then you think about the pub industry and you think you're just... I don't know, it's a difficult one. H is in Lancashire. Oh, Heather. Jeremy, it's not just drink driving, it's drug driving. Labour are out to close the pubs because they are the people's parliament. It's interesting. Leon, how about nominating a designated driver while the rest have a pint? Interesting. Talk, morning, Jez. 3 reasons why Starmer wants pubs gone. They're usually big buildings and would make great HMOs. Oh, God. He has to keep his Muslim voters happy who don't drink. And 3, he's barred from most of them, says Blake in Wigan. Well... I mean, you'd have to say that's probably quite accurate.
Well, you're absolutely right. And look, you referenced me and my dad in high spirits on Christmas Eve. The pub that we were in, it's called, I'm sure I can give it a shout out, it's called The Angel, run by a great guy called Nigel, was offered by the Home Office to have that pub taken over as part of the HMO. He turned it down because he knew that he could got a huge sum over the 5 years of having that as a contract, but turned it down because he wanted that to remain as part of the community. Because he knew if he'd lost that and it turned into a HMO and migrants had moved in, when that contract came to an end and you'd hope the migrants had moved out, that pub would have been gone. Nobody would go back. It would be finished. And that's why people like Nigel, and there'll be thousands of pub owners and landlords and landladies up and down the country that rejected the HMO issue because they want their pubs to be the beating heart of the community.
Couldn't agree more. Andy, good morning. What do you make of this, my friend?
Morning, Jeremy. It's Andy here. Yeah, breath test, no problem. I do one every day to drive my amazing white van at 4 o'clock every morning. So I'm all good at doing breath tests or not having a drink, but can we breathalyse the MPs before they get to make decisions in Parliament, and drug test as well? What's good for me is good for thee and all that. They're making big decisions in our lives, and I'm sure they must be on something to come up with some of the BS that they do. So, yeah, let's get them all breath tested before they step foot in Parliament. How about that?
I love that. And most of all, what's good for me is good for thee. What's good for thee is good for me. Terry says, we have the highest limits in Europe. I can drink, believe me, but after 2 points, I know my driving is impaired. Good idea. Jez, Labour want to close down the pub trade permanently. So many people responding, and I want to read the ones. Listen to this. Jez, do you think there's something sinister, Neil, about the lack of support for pubs by this current Labour government? Given their aim, or so it appears, to reduce freedom of speech, then it would make sense to support the closing of pubs. After all, isn't the pub where people go to chew the fat and discuss such things as how bad a government is? A bit like the water cooler. Great point, right?
Absolutely, but also added to all the tax increases and all the burden that those businesses would have had. Do you remember the Workers' Rights Bill that was coming forward, which would have made the responsibility of landlords and landladies and pub owners, they would have been prosecuted if they'd heard a conversation taking place in a pub that someone else might have got offended by.
Do you think Labour's against pubs? Do you think this is an accurate comment?
Well, The evidence is there.
Yeah.
I mean, how many more examples do you need to come to that conclusion? And of course, Labour will say, no, we want to help the hospitality, we want to do this, we want to do that. Okay, fine. Well, stop telling us that and show us what you're actually doing. And what they're actually doing, by what we're seeing, whether it's this idea of cutting the alcohol limit, whether it is through increasing national insurance contributions, business rates and the minimum wage on pubs, whether it's through that workers' rights bill, which would, as they put more ownership and bureaucracy and burden on the pubs rather than the punters, then of course you can only come to the conclusion that actually, no wonder so many pubs are banning Labour MPs from going.
Which I think is a great idea. If you own or run a pub, let's phone us up, we'll put you on and we'll find out who your local Labour MP is, and because there probably will be a Labour MP, and we'll get them banned. 25 to 7. We'll also talk, this is a debate that's going to go on all day. We'd love to hear what you make of that. We'll also talk about the shocking news overnight that Britain and France have formally committed to deploying troops in Ukraine. There will be boots on the ground. We found a restaurant, by the way, in Southampton that has to close because there's an asylum hotel next door. I mean, literally sort of semi-detached. They can't even run their business. Nobody wants to come completely, I think. And I'm also going to tell you about a Brazilian woman who won £35,000, right, because some people in the office mocked her accent. I don't know what a Brazilian sounds like. I know what one looks like. I'm waiting all morning to do that. But we're going to ask the question later. Can you not have any sort of fun nowadays? Can you not, like, have any banter in the office? I mean, don't you think, amongst all the misery, it's quite nice to have a bit of a laugh? But no, I might offend somebody.
I agree with you.
You don't mind me calling you a beardy old... It's funny, isn't it?
It's the only reason I turn up.
You are my beard, aren't you? Anyway, office banter, the closing of restaurants because of migrants, and British troops in Ukraine, along with that news. One for the road. What do you make? Labour, 1 pint, you could be in the clink. A breathalyser in your care, and sod your car even, and sod the pub industry. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. This is Talk. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, my friends. Welcome along. 21 minutes to 7 o'clock. We're live across the UK on the home of common sense. It's Jeremy Kyle on breakfast, and this is Charles Rowley. Is it Charles, by the way?
By birth, yes, yeah. But you can call me Charlie. You can call me. I've heard a lot worse, so I'll take anything.
We're talking drink driving this morning. I'm sure you will. Front page of the Sun. It's all over everywhere. One for the road. It's going to be 1 pint, and you could be prosecuted. There could be breathalyzers in your car. We're all about safety. We're also about freedom and liberty. And we're also about the pub industry. Morning, Nadja.
Good morning, Jeremy. I don't know if I would say this out loud. Will they pick on the man on the mobility scooter who goes down to the local pub every day and might have more than 1 pint?
Sorry, will they pick a... See, I was thinking about Benidorm. Can you imagine? I mean, what is the rule with that? Because cyclists get away. And what about cyclists, again? So if you're in your mobility scooter and you're on the pavement and you're two parts to the wind, should the same rules apply?
Well, you're right. Madge would be on the pavement, wouldn't she? Where cyclists should.
Do you remember her in Benidorm, Madge?
Oh, she was great.
Face like a belt. I've never seen anything so old in my life, honestly. And I met her once, honestly. But no, seriously, that's a really good point.
Yes. I mean, I don't know how many people in mobility scooters would be, but, you know...
I think people drive mobility scooters and sell drugs from them, some of them. I think the whole world's gone nuts. I'm joking,
well,
Mark.
Hopefully you'd see them coming. They're not the fastest of things,
but I've actually seen, you know, I tell you what happens. You get to an age where you walk past certain shoe shops and you go, oh, they look comfy. And I've seen old people in mobility scooters and I think, oh, bloody hell, I much prefer that than walking up the hill. But you're right, they don't go that quick, do they? They don't go that quick.
I mean, I think, you know, there are people who can, you know, well, but who knows?
Are you happy to push me as I get older, or do you think I should get a motorised one?
I think I'd start off motorised. I think you're able to. Yeah. You'd be fine behind the controls there. But I'd happily push you. Of course I would.
Thank you, morning, Jez. Congrats on the show. This abusive, authoritarian, rule-making government is drunk on its own power. It is suffocating all of us with its spiteful, unnecessary attacks on our liberty. John in Nottingham. Thank you so much indeed. Keep that debate going. I just want to move to something else as well, which is also almost everywhere. Front page of the Times. I'm a little bit cynical when Starmer and Macron go, oh, what is it, the coalition of the willing? Willing for what? To screw us all over. Anyway, UK agrees to boots on the ground in Ukraine. I mean, this is pretty shocking. This is a big moment. Starmer yesterday said this. Have a listen, have a watch.
We signed a declaration of intent on the deployment of forces to Ukraine in the event of a peace deal. This is a vital part of our ironcast commitment to stand with Ukraine for the long term. It paves the way for the legal framework under which British, French and partner forces could operate on Ukrainian soil, securing Ukraine's skies and seas, and regenerating Ukraine's armed forces for the future.
Again, I don't want to be cynical. I know I'm intelligent enough to know that Ukraine war is also about Europe. I don't think Putin can be trusted. There will be people who will say, are you putting English troops in a dangerous position? What about priorities at home? Blah, blah, blah. And I think there's a phrase, isn't there, war fatigue, and certainly the money, blah, blah, blah. But all he ever does, he's done it again. If you cut that back, thank you, Christian, you're dead right. It's a declaration of intent. It's always bloody intent. We intend to do something about the driving, drink driving. We intend to do something. Declaration of intent. I curl up when I hear the coalition of the willing, and I watch him and I just don't see him as somebody on the international stage that I'm proud to call my leader. But what do you make of this potential chance that UK troops could be on the ground in Ukraine, Charlie?
Yeah, well, firstly, you're absolutely right. The intent is very different to the actual reality, and it's in the event of a peace deal. So that has to come first. And obviously, you know, will Russia actually ever agree to a peace deal? Are they actually ever going to agree to a ceasefire? Are they going to agree to whatever, drawing up, if you have to draw up the division of the territory, if you've got to withdraw troops? Is Putin actually going to do that, or is he just laughing at us all, having these meetings, having these press conferences?
Well, let's look at September, because this is the other irony of what the idiot said. Sorry, he said. Well, he says Putin can't be trusted at all. Have a watch, have a listen.
In recent days, Putin has shown his true face, mounting the biggest attacks since the invasion began, with yet more bloodshed, yet more innocents killed, and unprecedented violations of NATO airspace. These are not the actions of someone who wants peace.
And again, and I'm not being critical, I know our armed forces are massively important and I would never diss anything that's about our national security, but, you know, my intent is to do this. I know Putin isn't trustworthy. I've got Trump stood next to me, who I'm trying to cozy up to, but I basically want to slag off about Venezuela and Greenland. It's just a mishmash. If it happened, do you think it's justifiable in terms of helping maintain a peace settlement in an area that, if it isn't worked through, could result in this madman? Because that's what Putin is, right? Going still further than just Ukraine. That has to be in the forefront of people's minds, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's my heart and my gut, when I read that and heard it, was no, I don't want to see British troops there. But my head, fun enough, says yes, there's no alternative, because when we talk about the UK having to spend more on defence, rightly so, when Europe has got to spend more on defence because you can't rely on the US, and Trump has been very clear about that, cut his NATO spending, asked us to stump up more money. Ukraine isn't a member of NATO, so it has to get the support from somewhere. And I think when we at home have been affected by the war in Ukraine, not least of all because of oil prices and our reliance on Russia, which obviously we need to wean ourselves off, get off immediately. We've had British victims in the UK at the hands of Russia, the Salisbury poisonings, for example. So we are in the eye line, I think, of Putin's Russia. But I also think the lack of response in 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea, that was a threat against the West. And we talked and talked and talked and did nothing. And I feel if we did more back then, we might not be in the situation we are now. So my heart wants to obviously say,
I'm with you.
Of course I don't want British troops there. I don't want to put them in harm's way.
What do you make of this, Peeps? Do you think that British troops should be on the ground in Ukraine or not? Where do you stand? Are you somebody who thinks that you're at the point of war fatigue when you look at what's going on in your own country, or do you surmise, as perhaps we all should, that if Putin is successful in Ukraine, it can mean more? Gary Phillips says the coalition of the willies, boots on the ground may never materialise, Jez, as Putin has said repeatedly, he will not accept British or French troops in Ukraine. If it was a coalition of the willies, where were the rest? Where was Italy, Hungary, Poland? The only two willies rattling sabres are Starmer and Macron. And this is a really interesting point by Gary Phillips. He said, if you look at the problems that those two have in their countries, are they trying to detract from what's going on at home by appearing to be so important on the international stage, when, look, I would support, if a Prime Minister said we are sending troops, I'm terribly patriotic, but it's a declaration of intent. Meanwhile, our country is being flooded. People hate me saying that, but it is, by people who shouldn't be here. And I think that's the truth, isn't it?
Totally. And look, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think, it's a mishmash of a coalition. You've got Germany that sort of appeared to do a half in, half out compared to what the UK and France have committed. Canada was there, Mark Carney was there. So it's a sort of, and Japan apparently have pledged something as well. So it is a mishmash of people that obviously want to bring about peace. But ultimately, it's getting that peace deal.
I don't think he understands it. You listen to Michael in Hockley. Morning, Jez. So Starmer thinks it's more about defending Ukraine from Russia than defending us from invading illegal migrants. And that, and for a lot of people, look, John in Yorkshire, this takes the biscuit, doesn't it? We could commit our forces to Ukraine, yet our own territories we give away and won't defend our own country. Now, people don't like that, but that is absolutely nailed on, isn't it?
Oh,
nailed on.
Nailed, absolutely. That is the open goal of this government. How on earth can you sort of stand there and...
This has got them going, actually, by the way. This has really got them going. Sharon, Staffordshire. What about sorting out your own country? Never mind bloody Ukraine. Starmer just continues to dish out and waste taxpayers' money. I thought we didn't have any bloody money. I don't disrespect Ukraine. I'm sorry for it. But there are problems here at home. That's absolutely the issue. It's got to be.
Yeah, and there'll be many people, as you say, they're thinking it's an open goal. But, if we can't defend our own borders, how on earth can we defend someone else's? That would just be the question that many people ask, as they already are. But but we do face this now heightened threat of where you've got a divide in the East and the West. You've got this, what I think is now reduced, by the way, with the removal of Maduro. But China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela was part of that. I think
you're quite experienced on Venezuela, aren't you?
I know a bit about it.
I'm not going to tell you why.
I know a lot about it.
He likes that. I'm going to go to an ad break. We're talking drink driving. We're talking about boots on the ground. But we're going to come back and we're going to talk about a restaurant closed after 20 years because of a migrant hotel, and how we seem to not be able to have a laugh in the workplace. A woman wins 35 grand because somebody mocked her Brazilian accent. I can't do a Brazilian accent. I don't know what a Brazilian sounds like, but I do know what one looks like. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean and Leicester. This drink driving thing, I need to drive every day for my work, so I know that I'm not going to ever drink drive, otherwise I'm going to lose my livelihood. If you're a drink driver, you're a drink driver, so whether you're going to make it 2 pints or 1 pint or no pints, people are still going to break that law. I can't really see the reason why they're doing it. Anyway, great show, buddy. Speak to you later.
you can't try and snipe at the Conservatives for things that weren't our fault.
Oh, I mean, I
This
haven't
is
got
not one.
time. Don't tell your big mate Donald Trump to tell his big mate Vladimir Putin to stop killing people, then we can solve that problem like that.
Won't be surprised to know I disagree.
Why? Why do you disagree, though? Why do you want our young people left on the scrap heap? The court's time being wasted, laying down a ruling on what is a woman. You and I have been speaking for far too many years about
And
this.
actually, you know, I'm very grateful to you too, because you have always covered this topic.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8 minutes to 7. Voice note, Mark, a very good morning. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Great show as always. Happy New Year. I'm Mark Wilmslow. So I think there should be zero tolerance when it comes to drink driving. I don't think anyone should be drinking at all while handling any sort of machinery. Same as drugs. I think there should be zero tolerance with that. But what I will agree with is that I think we've got a hell of a lot more that this government needs to sort out rather than the Road Safety Act. There is a limit at the minute. I think people are going to drink and drive whether there's a zero tolerance limit or not. But I definitely think and agree with you that the government needs to be sorting out this migrant issue and all the other issues that we face in the UK before the country falls apart. So anyway, great show, and keep up the good work, and have a good day. Bye.
Do you think anybody's going to send a voice note not sounding like they just want to go and live somewhere else, a bit like I feel? What do you make of this? I mean, do you think he's right? Yes or no?
The trouble is, and I know that's not a yes or no, but the
no, it isn't, and I haven't got much time.
But you can't. I agree with him, but you can't put the genie back in the bottle. We have people who are at the minute. You can go to a pub, you can drink, you can have a couple of pints, you can drive home safely. So you can't get rid of that completely. No. Of course, people that are professionals, like bus drivers who might be ex-cops that are operating buses or machinery, of course they should not be drinking.
No,
anyway.
absolutely.
So there is a ban. There should be a ban on people that are professional drivers, that shouldn't, taxi drivers and the like, that shouldn't be drinking and driving, full stop. But I think for the rest of us, we can make that decision ourselves.
There's a story out. I found this yesterday, Christian and I did. We're trying to get hold of the owner. This is extraordinary. We're talking about the issues in this country, migration. A restaurant in Southampton, the Ceno. It could be Cheno, we don't know. Ceno Bar, C-E-N-O Bar and Restaurant in Portswood in Southampton's closed its doors for the final time on New Year's Day after 20 years following safety issues. A spokesman for the restaurant said that asylum seekers in the Highfield House Hotel, which is right next door, had not only repeatedly damaged the restaurant, all they had was shouts from migrants and bad behaviour, protesters of both sides, police there every single night. Police will do absolutely nothing, nobody will do anything, and their restaurant, after 20 years, Cheno, Ceno, whatever it is in Southampton, in Portswood, decimated and somebody's livelihood down the toilet because we live in a country where people won't do something about it. And so I can look at that drink drive thing and go, yeah, from a safety point of view, but what about these people who have built their business and are being screwed and forced out of business?
Yeah, well, totally. And look, 20 years on
20 years.
On the high street or in Southampton.
Cheno Bar and Restaurant in Portswood, Southampton, gone because there's a migrant hotel next door. They're making too much. It's antisocial behaviour, but nobody will do anything about antisocial behaviour of these migrant men because their human rights would be impacted.
Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it?
Well, but that's the reality of a centralised, overbearing government that has said, right, we're putting these people here, we're putting them there. There's no real engagement with the community, as we saw with the Epping Hotel crisis. That the whole point was the district council didn't want the people there, the people didn't want them there. There were protests, but yet the government still pursued in dropping in these migrants who shouldn't be here.
If you are from Southampton, Portswood, you know about this restaurant, give us a call, 0344 499 1000. I'm not going to give up doing these stories. I just want to do this. Page 4 of the Mail. Brazilian waitress wins 35 grand after colleague mocked her accent. Basically, I'm not going to try and say her name. Ana Beatriz Machado. Ana Beatriz Machado.
Oh, yes.
Oh, hello. Oh, matron, yeah.
That was very good. That was very good.
Anyway, 30, she basically, somebody took the mickey out of her accent. Now, we can't do a Brazilian, I mean, please don't make a joke. We can't do a Brazilian accent, and we wouldn't be disrespectful because we'd probably be called racist. Somebody did it in her restaurant, and she was so traumatised and full of anxiety that she had a breakdown, and she went to a sort of tribunal, and whoever it was who had done it, or wherever they were, £35,000. Now, you'll be pleased to hear that when she got the money, which was tax-free, she's made a remarkable recovery and is now working in Hooters. But it's not for me. You wouldn't know what that is, Charlie, would you, Hooters, would you?
I do, actually.
Oh,
yes, I do.
matron. But here's the thing. Does this mean that we can't have any banter in the office?
Yes,
what's the worst thing you've ever been called in the office? Come on. There must be something. Some banter, love.
What was the worst thing I've been called in the office?
On time?
On time. I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I try not to talk to my colleagues, to be fair.
South American lover?
I come in and...
South American lover?
I come in and I get my head down. And,
yes, well, that's probably what you've been told in the office. Yes, there you go. So we just thought it was a bit of fun with all the misery in the world. Do you not think that we need to laugh right now with all the crap that's going on? And, you know, not having a go at the Brazilian waitress who was obviously that traumatised. She's got 35 large and she's now working in Hooters, which we would not condone or anything about Hooters. Mark's never been there. Look at his face. But what about banter in the office? Is it okay to have a bit of a laugh, or are we so politically correct that you're going to be fired? I can personally tell you, having been cancelled, whatever. But you're not trying to be rude, but, you know, what happened to just cutting through the misery and the depression that is our lives and just being able to say, God, that's weird. I said this morning, Mark's been to have his hair cut. He knows me that well. He went, yeah, the council cut it. As he walked in, he said that to me because he knew I'd say, who did that? The council?
Yes, well, talk will be 35 grand down by the end of the day if Mark goes off, you know.
Like just his weekly wage. Are you feeling stressed? Yeah. Mark's going home, he's feeling stressed, but on the way home, why don't you go to Hooters? Anyway, there we go. What's the worst thing in the office? Do you think it's a good thing to have a laugh?
Totally. Yeah. We need it more than we need. And the best laugh, I think, is having a laugh at yourself. You know, you can't...
I do every time I take my clothes off.
Yeah. you can't take things too seriously.
No.
And I think we do need to just have a little bit of... just fun, enjoy life. Yeah. Just get down from our high, out this anxiety.
I think we should be. I'd love to hear from you very quickly. What's the best bit of banter that you've been called in the office, or something that you're prepared to accept? 87222. Start your message with the word talk. The amazing Charlie Rowley, we love you. You back next Wednesday?
I will be.
You'll be like regular. You'll be like me when I eat cereal. We're heading to 7 o'clock on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. So the big news story in The Sun: one for the road. Drink drive limit could be cut to 1 pint. There could be breathalyzer machines in your cars. Many people quite rightly saying that's good for safety. Others saying, hold on a second, what about our liberties, our ability to make our own decisions? What about the pub industry? What do you make of that? The other news that the coalition of the willing have decided there could be UK troops on the ground in Ukraine. Your thoughts on that? It's only a declaration of intent by Starmer and Macron. Probably doesn't mean it's going to happen. We'd love to hear your views on that. 87222 and the usual number for your voice notes. We'll do the news at 7, and Charlie is off for a haircut, aren't you?
Yeah.
See you soon. Bye.
The UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you, my friends. Welcome. What is it? Wednesday, the 7th of December. You were taught the home, of course, of common sense, where alarm clock Brits and working people come to talk and have their say on what's going on. Thank you for tuning in. As ever, loads in the news you're waking up to. The big news story, front of the Sun, I was doing it just now. One for the road. Labour's plans today, can't see that, you can now. One for the road. Labour's plans today include maybe a drink drive limit, cutting it to 1 pint, maybe breathalyzer units, chips in your car. All well and good from the safety point of view. Let's make that point. Nobody condones or even wants to hear about the horrible disaster that is drink driving and what that can do. But many people phoning saying this is a new infringement on our lives by a government that is intent on telling us how, why and when we should do these things. Are we not mature enough to make our own minds up? Maybe I'm wrong. We'd love your views. And also, what about the pub industry? What about an industry, rural pubs, being decimated already? You know, lots of people texting going, this government doesn't want pubs to exist because they're the hub of the local community where people might go and actually have a debate about how appalling this government is. Love your thoughts. Voice notes straight away. 0344 499 1000. Text 87222. The other big news overnight is the coalition of the willing, which was basically only Starmer and Macron, who both are facing quite a hard time at home, made an announcement last night. They've committed formally to deploying troops in Ukraine as part of a potential peace deal. I just wanted to, I'm not picking it apart. There'll be a lot of people who think this is important. Obviously, Ukraine is important because it's a European war potentially as well. But Putin says any troops and it's disaster. I'm not having that. It's only a declaration of intent. And many people are already calling us saying, do you know what? Whilst we've sympathy, the fact is, a bit like the drink driving, are there not more important things right now that we should be dealing with in this country? Like we can't secure our own borders, but we're going to send troops to Ukraine to secure that. So I'd love your thoughts. Perry, you've got a thought on this, me old son. Morning.
Morning, Jeremy. As I'm aware, I think Keir Starmer has a 17, 18-year-old son. I mean, is he going to be enlisting, to fight his old man's good cause? If it's a cause that Keir Starmer's so proud of, putting young British troops' lives at risk, then, why doesn't he enlist his own son? Or is it just other people's sons and daughters he's willing to sacrifice?
You can look at what's going on in the world. We've some breaking news. I don't know if you heard about this in the newspapers after what Trump did in Venezuela with Maduro. There's a Venezuelan oil tanker full of oil. Obviously, it's full of oil. It's not full of teddy bears, you idiot, is it? Anyway, it's rammed tight of oil and it's heading basically for Russia. And apparently the US are pursuing it. We can break the news that Russia's now sending Navy ships to guard that. So, you can look at what's going on in the world. You can think about what a madman Putin is, or you disagree with what Trump's doing in Venezuela or potentially Greenland. A lot of people getting their knickers in the twist about that. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot of people in this country saying, yes, I get all that, but why on earth have we a government who are more interested in saying to us, you shall not drive if you drink, which most of us, I would hope, would believe we know is wrong, than deal with things that matter, like migration, the health service, our armed forces that are depleted. I'll tell you a good person to get on, top man as well. We love him. Free from the shackles of being the MP for Wokingham for 30 years. Sir John Redwood, former Conservative Cabinet Minister. Happy New Year to you, Sir John. How are you?
Happy New Year. Well, all the better for seeing you and hearing some common sense.
Thanks, mate.
We certainly need more of that.
Good man. Let's start with that coalition of the willies. I mean, the willing yesterday. Macron, Starmer. Only, John, a declaration of intent. I was very vocal about my support for Ukraine, always will be, but I am beginning to understand, as I'm sure you, is that age-old phrase, war fatigue. Many people, the silent majority in this country, struggling on so many fronts, are saying, so you're not prepared to police our own borders, but you're prepared to put troops in Ukraine.
Yeah, this was another bad way to waste the Prime Minister's time. I don't know why he does these things. We know that Russia, first of all, hasn't yet agreed a ceasefire, and there's still a big disagreement between Ukraine and Russia over the potential borders. We know also that Russia has ruled out any NATO forces, and obviously Britain is a leading part of NATO. So what's the point of posturing, saying that we might find some forces to put in there, when there's no peace to police at the moment, and when we don't really have enough forces in the first place to do the things we're already trying to do? I think you're absolutely right that what the British public want is to police our borders, put Britain first, rebuild our defence forces, rather than going around pledging vanishingly few troops for a purpose that isn't likely to happen.
It's quite interesting as well. Somebody gave me a stat yesterday which sort of left me cold. Did you know that we have a migrant tracker on the show, and I think up to nigh on 70,000 illegal migrants, not women and children before all the do-gooders start, have come illegally into this country since Starmer became Prime Minister. And that number, Sir John Redwood, you would know this, is higher than the complete number of our armed forces, for God's sake. What does that say?
that is crazy. And also, another worrying figure is there are 27,000 people employed by the MOD in buying weapons, which is completely disproportionate to the number of troops and the number of guns they actually buy. So the government doesn't run itself well, and it doesn't have its priorities right. We were promised in that election, smash the gangs.
Yeah.
They're just getting round to the possible idea that they should take some of the mobile phones off people, presumably to find out who they paid and how they got in touch.
No, I've
with
got
the boat
breaking
trip in the
news.
first
I don't
place.
want to upset you, John, but I know you've got a sense of humour. There's actually breaking news on that. You know, they made this pledge to the government they were going to take mobile phones off these migrants.
Yeah.
It's not. It's to give them a free upgrade.
Yeah, that's probably right.
I mean, you wouldn't put it past
And of
them.
course, if you warn people they're going to do this, then they use burner phones or some other method, so you don't actually catch them. The idea that I and others have put forward was that they should interview these people when they arrive in Britain and say, you now tell us how you found out about this boat trip, who organised it, who you paid the money to, and it's at that point, if they refuse to cooperate, you should say, well, hold on, I'm just going to check your phone then.
Couldn't agree more. Very quickly, because I want to talk about this drink drive thing, but I just want your view. You served at the highest government table in the land, top man as well. Should have been PM, and I've said that many times. What do you make of the not specifically Venezuela, monsieur, but the threats about Greenland from Trump? Is it posturing or is he right? Where do you stand on this?
Well, I think we need to hear more from Trump and his people. I mean, it was obviously completely wrong that he might go and invade Greenland, which is a friendly country and part of NATO and so forth. But it's obviously right that the defence of Greenland depends crucially on a very big American involvement. And America is clearly worried at the moment about Russian and Chinese intervention around Greenland, which would be a threat to the United States of America. So they need to sit down with the Greenland government and sort out on what basis America makes an even bigger contribution to the defence of Greenland.
Somebody said to me yesterday, I thought was quite a salient point. What Trump does is he comes out with quite what many people go, oh my God, this is absolutely outrageous. If you remember the expenditure, and I agree with him, how much he gave to NATO, and none of us wanted to spend any money, and he postured for a bit, and suddenly everybody's spend on defence via GDP went through the roof, and maybe he's trying to achieve the same here, which, because it seems to me, and I completely agree it's ludicrous, but the fact of the matter is it's another example, is it not, Greenland, of Europe, again, NATO, again, expecting and believing that America will always put their hands in their pockets. So I guess he might be arguing, I don't know, for some sort of balance in who supports who.
Yeah, I think he can make a legitimate request to say that given the amount of defence we are and will need to put into supporting you and helping you, we need a better economic collaboration agreement so that we can help you develop some of your resources, which should assist us in defending your country. That, I think, is a sensible discussion. And I think also Trump advisors have latched on to the fact that this has been a colony of Denmark, which is largely broken free from Danish control, but there are quite a lot of people in Greenland who don't welcome too much Danish intervention in their affairs. And so there's an issue about can Greenland have its own arrangement with America, and shouldn't it now have its own arrangement with America?
Interesting. John, so much I want to throw in the mix. This front page of The Sun today is a story that you need to sort of strip down, but basically Labour are to announce a drink drive limit could be cut to a pint. There could be breathalyzer chips put into cars. I get, and I've said all morning, I get the security, you know, what's important is safety. I think anybody who drink drives is abhorrent, but it's a mass of outpouring this morning of yet another infringement on our lives by a Labour government that wants to create this nanny state. There's many people quite rightly saying this is a massive attack on the pub industry, specifically rural pubs. These are the hubs of communities. I mean, this is a government that has destroyed small business with interest rates hikes, NI hikes, all those sorts of things. This is going to decimate that. Are we not intelligent and mature enough to make our own damn decisions, Sir John Redwood, or am I missing the point on this story?
Well, no, I think you're making a perfectly good point, but I think we all agree that drink and drugs and driving don't go well together.
No.
And that we want the rural pub to, by all means, entertain people who go there by car, but you should go as a group of people with only one driver, and the driver should obviously have non-alcoholic drinks, and they're very good non-alcoholic drinks you can have in a pub these days. But you do need to trust people. I think the big criticism I've got of this is perceived as another attack on the pubs, and I want them, first of all, to get rid of the attacks on the pubs they need not make. And they've made this needless attack on pubs by upping the business rates of many pubs when they were promising to do the opposite. And of course, the pubs were one of the big sufferers of the huge hike in national insurance.
And the minimum wage, of course.
So
Yeah,
forth.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it was stopping young people going and getting their first job helping out in a pub, and it was stopping the pubs having sufficient service to run their businesses properly. So I feel very sorry for pub owners. I think we're going to lose a lot more pubs over this combined attack. And this latest news today is just one more thing that the pubs will find as a negative for attracting customers.
You served with her, you worked with her. I saw a clip, I said it earlier, from Mrs T many years ago, and it was talking about how government's role is not to control people, it's to carry out legislation and the governance that serves the people in its right way. She was very much against the nanny state, and I've always believed that's correct. I know you have. Do you think this government is... Again, one of the things about this story this morning, none of us want to see horror on the roads, but are there not bigger priorities than making a massive PR campaign about 1 pint only, right? I think anybody who drinks and drives is a scumbag. I know somebody who lost somebody because of a drink driver, and I passionately think that that person quite rightly went to jail. But I do look at our borders, and I do look at our NHS, and I do look at our army, and I do look at so much that's wrong in this country, knife crime and all these things, and I think... It's a soundbite again, Starmer, and it's like ID cards. What are you trying to do? Can you deal with the real issues, please?
Well, he can't, and he's incredibly muddled. And as you say, it's a deflection from the main priorities that people have. And most people will be sitting there this morning thinking, well, I don't drink and drive, and it's quite right not to drink and drive. Don't mind the message going out again from the government. But please, why don't you tackle the problems you promised to tackle? And energy prices is the one that really annoys me, because they keep on going up and they promise 300 quid off. They're now going to shuffle a bit of the cost off onto our general taxation. Well, that isn't cutting the cost of energy. That's just making us pay in a different way. But in the meantime, they're now threatening to take us into the carbon and emissions taxing system of the EU, which means higher taxes on energy and industry, not lower. And it means that someone else imposes them, we can't get out of them. I mean, he's absolutely outrageous that this man thinks he can give away our powers to tax and at the same time do it by putting up a tax on energy.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. Did you see that thing? I don't know, you're a bit like me. Do you do X or not? Twitter, X, do you do that?
Yeah, I put up my X's every day, Jeremy. Shall I have a look at them?
Have you not? I don't do it, mate. I've got 6 kids and a very... Have you ever had a community note? Did you not hear this story yesterday? So Starmer did this tweet overnight yesterday saying, good news, we're improving your lives. There it is, it's back up again. We're going to have £150 off your bill, and within about 5 seconds... a community note means that X, the overpowering whatever, says, no, this is wrong. He said that the price cap was much lower when he made that promise, and with this higher price cap, the £150 reduction he's talking about mean bills will still be higher than when they were elected. The man can't even tell the truth on X. I mean, it's frightening to me. Frightening. But I'm with you. There seems to be so many issues in this country, right? Let me tell you of a story that we heard just now that to me, you talk about the lifeblood and businesses. There's a hotel, I don't know if you heard me talk about it, a restaurant rather, the Chino Bar and Restaurant in Portswood in Southampton, closed its doors New Year's Day after 20 years, a family-run business, because next door, the Highfield House Hotel, is jam-packed with illegal migrants. They've damaged the restaurant. They've caused untold misery to the customers. Nobody can have any peace and quiet. There's demonstrations, there's abuse, there's police very occasionally. It's a business that's worked for 20 years and provide employment and I guess money for the local community, decimated because nobody in power can do something about hordes of illegal young men just arriving in our country willy-nilly, John.
Well, it's a dreadful story, and normally the local council and local people are wiser than the government, and they're saying this is not the right place and this is not the appropriate thing to be doing, and the government just forces it upon them. But it goes back to the fundamental failure, smash the gangs. Why didn't they do the most obvious things when they came into power? They said, this is a policing problem, fine, you've got a border force, it's tasked to do just this. sit down and talk to them and make sure in future you're stopping these votes rather than encouraging them. But they're still encouraging them by the way they behave.
Kev's just texted us interesting while you've been on. He says, Jeremy, Chino's restaurant in Southampton was a fantastic place, great food, great atmosphere, very popular. This is disgraceful, and unfortunately this is going to be a sign of a lot of businesses due to the amount of migration we are experiencing, but moreover the way it isn't being dealt with. Shame on governments and anybody that won't acknowledge that these issues exist. And that's quite... Kev's in Southampton, he's obviously been to Chino's as well. I think this failure to acknowledge it. I had Robert Jenrick on yesterday, who obviously is quite outspoken now, but for years you couldn't even use the word immigration. I still get, you know, messages, not nice ones, from people who say, you're being really unfair. These people are leaving, you know, war-torn countries. No, they're not. They're taking the mickey out of a country that I think has probably pandered for too long, and its indigenous population's woken up to the point that their lives aren't great, and they kind of work out why other people are treated better, far better, who don't deserve jack. That's how I see it. Simple.
Yes, I mean, the silent majority is no longer silent as it was. It is no longer as cowed by all this business that if you mention migration makes you a racist, which is complete nonsense. But it's perfectly reasonable, surely, to say that there are laws against people illegally coming to this country who are not genuine refugees. Too many of them have come and are still coming. So government, can't you do that minimum number of things you need to do to get the numbers coming down rather than going up? And we were promised one thing and we've been delivered another.
I love having you on. I'm going to finish. There's a Brazilian waitress. Somebody took the mickey out of her accent. She won 35 grand because she was so traumatised for John Redwood. She's all right there now. She's working in Hooters. And I didn't know what Hooters was until Christian explained. But John Redwood knows. Look at his face. He knows. Anyway, so John, workplace banter. What, I mean, there you were. You worked at the I bet cabinet meetings there wasn't any banter. Did any sort of dark humour ever emanate through any government you served in?
Well, I mean, all the time politicians are subject to caricature and abuse, and quite rightly so.
No, I mean, amongst yourselves, would you have a nickname for the Foreign Secretary or a nickname for Thatcher?
The caricature of me was I had no sense of humour. That's why I never get these panto gigs you keep on offering me, you know?
You're a top man and we love having you on, John, and it's great to have you on the New Breakfast Show. So John Redwood, we'll see you very soon. Happy New Year, former Conservative Cabinet Minister, 721. So, you're waking up to the news that the government have decided you can only have 1 pint and drive, and I get the safety thing before people have a go at me. But the truth of the matter is this yet another attack on our liberty, our chance to make our own decisions? Also, the coalition of the willing. Yes, Starmer and Macron, no other bugger, because they just wanted to escape where they live because they're having a nightmare at home. They've declared their intent to put UK troops' boots, with the troops, obviously not the boots, no, on the ground in Ukraine. What do you make of that? Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean in Leicester. Starmer can have as much intent as he wants. We haven't got any armed forces. There's more illegal immigrants come over to this country than we've got serving. That's what they need to try and sort out. Immigrants, and let's build our forces back up again. Honestly, it is shocking. All these politicians that want to put people like me on the ground, they won't put their own family on the ground, will they? I'm done with it.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, JK at breakfast, 7:25 on a Wednesday morning. Not so chilly today, by the way. Went out this morning in 5 layers, been sweating like a pig ever since. Weather bomb, though, on the way. Apparently, tomorrow and Friday is going to be an extraordinarily appalling storm. I'm going to do this straight away. I'm going to go back to the days of ITV when quality presenters, not me, used to grace the airwaves. And there's one lady who legend, Nazir, Claire Nazir. Look at that. How are you, my darling?
Good morning, Jeremy. That's very kind. Always get a good salute from you, and ditto back.
Am I allowed to say, darling, because one of the stories today is, have you heard about this Brazilian waitress? Brazilian waitress, is a brilliant story, Naz. Brazilian waitress had an accent mocked by a colleague. I mean, I don't know how a Brazilian sounds. Watch Claire Nazir's face while I give her my line of the morning. I know what one looks like, but not what one sounds. Anyway, she was so depressed and mortified and suffered from anxiety that she took them to tribunal, and she won £35,000. She must have recovered because she's now working in Hooters. But workplace banter, is there a place for it still? Have we become a bit too serious, Claire Nazir?
Well, I work from home. I've got my own TV studio at home, so it's just me and the dog. And occasionally my husband, so I try and push him away because he finds me very boring when I talk about weather. So
Sorry,
not a lot
are you talking about pushing the dog away or pushing your husband away?
Husband, absolutely the husband every time. But yeah, you know, it's a tricky one. Everyone's a little bit PC, aren't they? And
yeah. We just reckon here that amongst all the misery, and we'll talk about the weather in a minute, which isn't any better, amongst all the misery, it would be quite nice to be able to have a laugh. Now, Oliver, who's 5, who's listening, my son, is desperate for snow. We live on the south coast, haven't seen any. Now, this storm that's coming, I looked at my local weather map. It says it's going to be raining all the time, but apparently other parts of the country could have up to 8 inches of snow. This is and of course, the country will grind to a halt. What can we expect, Nas? What's happening?
Right. Well, at the moment, most of the north and northeast of Scotland are ground to halt because we've seen up to ½ a metre of snow there. And that's where Oliver should really be if he loves the snow, because if you don't have to work, if you don't have to travel A to B, it's absolutely beautiful. But communities have been cut off.
Yep.
At the same time, we look towards the southwest and into Thursday. This storm is developing and strengthening. Now, it's been named, Jeremy, by the French Met Service, and that's where the worst winds will be. It's a very deep area of low pressure, bringing severe gales to the south coast, particularly the southwest.
Brilliant.
Now, this heavy rain, as it encounters the cold air, is likely to turn to snow through Thursday night. Hence the reason why there's a snow warning across Wales, the Midlands, and is likely to extend further north as well. So I think the warnings will be updated today, and it will cause problems because we only need ½ a centimetre of snow for everything to, you know, cause cancellations and people not being able to just get to their destination. So I think it will be there will be problems probably on Friday morning as it clears, but there will be wind damage, there will be heavy rain, so the risk of flooding, and also snow. So we're calling it a multi-hazard event. Pinning down details at the moment, I think there's more to play for, and all it takes is this storm to be, say, 50 miles further south, and the snow could be further south, and the strongest winds will be as well. So it really is a watch this space.
It's really interesting what you say, because you've done this for years and you're the best in the business. They said we want to talk about weather. I get Nazir, she's the best. South, yeah, like I said, pouring rain, awful gales, that'll be great, won't it? North, and there is a serious side to snow, of course, communities cut off, and does it, after all the time that you've done this, does it still surprise you or not that we seem incapable in this country, whenever there's any sort of bad weather, everything grinds to a halt? I remember living in the US and getting to JFK one day. It was about 4 foot of snow, and I'm like, well, we're not flying home. And they sent this machine down the runway. This sort of fire came out the front, melted all the snow, and the plane took off. We're not very up at it, are we, really, in the UK, to be fair?
We're not, but we don't get it very often, and that's the thing. Even parts of Scotland now seeing more rain than snow. So this is what we're seeing in Scotland, an unusual event. And we invest money in flood defences. and more so now in the risk of high heat in the summer.
Yeah.
So this is more like a blip. We do get a snow event most winters. This one's been quite extreme across some parts of the country. And then when we get a storm from the southwest, because the air has been so cold, as I said, it will turn wintry. And it's something where we just have to grin and bear it and just cope with it, because it never lasts for very long.
Claire, just one thing, the name. Who named this? I've always thought these names, Hurricane Angus, crap. This is called Goretti.
Well, it's named after a French saint, and the French were first and saw this storm, and they could get hurricane force winds across the Brest Peninsula, Normandy. So this is where the greatest impacts will be. And so we were looking at it and thinking, this is actually a potent beast. Will we name it? But French got there first, and rightly so. So we've adopted that name.
Listen, it's brilliant. I hope everything is good for the new year with you and the family. We love having you on. We'll come on again soon. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Claire Nazir, the best meteorologist in the world by a mile, and top lady. What is it, 7:30 Wednesday morning, 7th of December. Darren, he's got an opinion on workplace banter, because, let's be honest, apparently you're not allowed to say that Mark, who pushes the buttons, looks like he's had his hair cut by the bleeding council this morning. Morning, Daz.
Hello, it's Darren here from Suffolk. We used to call a guy C-section at work because he was always scared of a bit of labour.
We called him C-section because he was scared of labour. Brilliant. OK, it's not going to get any better than that. Voice notes on whatever you want to talk about. You're waking up to the news that there's a new infringement on your lives. Labour want to say you can only drink 1 pint instead of 2 before you drive. I get 100%. I get the importance of the safety issues, but what we're talking about here is this yet another attack from a government that would like a nanny state. Are we not able to make our own decisions? And more than that, what about the pub industry? I keep saying it, decimated by business rates increases, the rise in minimum wages, I mean, increase in employers' national insurance. Businesses like that, you know, used to be the hub of the community, are really, really suffering. 0344 499 1000. Mick, this is really interesting. Jez, from someone who was wiped out by a drink driver, I was parked up in 2001, then again 4 years ago by another who had obviously been on a session the night before. It's not usually the people that have 1 or 2 drinks who are hammered. They're breaking the law anyway, so will make no difference. Don't worry, I'm still here. I'd love to know what he thinks, whether it's, I don't know. Good morning, Jez. Drink driving. I was brought up in a pub. I've had a couple of pubs. I've never drunk and driven, but I dare say I've always had alcohol in my system. What about those that may have drunk several hours ago, not drunk, but may still be having about a pint in them? 1 pint will mean no pints. I sort of get what he's saying here. You either crush it or you don't. Heather says banter and a sense of humour is good for you. It cheers you up and makes you laugh. The problem is people take it too seriously and can't see the funny side. I honestly, Heather, I couldn't agree more. Gillian in Essex, unfortunately, Jeremy, we can't hire anyone now because we all have a laugh without... What? Oh... Yes, she's right. Woke Brigade, traumatised. She said we can't employ anybody of the new generation because there's always a problem. I mean, you do find yourself, I don't know whether you can identify with this, right, but you do find yourself in scenarios whereby you think, now, should I or shouldn't I? There's a bloke in her office, who won't be named, Ricky, and he looks at me every day as if he's waiting for me to say something completely outrageous. And I think he thinks it's the beginning of the end because I'm 60 and I've probably got the onset of dementia or something. But he looks at me like I'm about to say something that's going to appall. I get that, right? I do get that. But I also think, God, amongst everything that's going on, can't we have a laugh? Just occasionally a laugh? No? What's Kev? Oh, hello. Kev, good morning. Are you in Chester?
Yes, I am.
How's Chester? Have you got snow, Kev?
Well, we did have, but it's actually raining and it's gone now.
That's not a Chester accent. Where are you from?
Well, I was born at the ends of the world, actually, in Wallasey, New Brighton.
Oh.
But so opposite Liverpool. But I've just.
Are you a red or a blue?
Well, gosh, I'm a Man United fan, actually.
Mind you, there's no way that I should be laughing this morning because I might as well put it out there. I'm a West Ham fan. Right, Kev, crack on. Time is money and we're all skint. What's happening?
Yeah, I know. OK, mate. Lovely show. I love you and Charlie, Chaz, Rowley. No, John Redmond, Sir John, made some wonderful points, but I wanted to say to you that I don't drink and drive. I've been driving for 60 years now, since I was 17. And I don't drink and drive, and the reason is, I did many years ago, like we all did, but the reason is I want to be able to hit that brake pedal within a second if a child runs out.
Mm-hmm.
And within 1 second at 30 mile an hour, you've done 44 feet.
Would it not be in everybody's interest then if they ban drink driving completely? What do you say to the people who say, and this is a really salient point from my listeners and viewers this morning, is this yet again a nanny state saying to us, you are not capable of making your own decisions, you are a disgrace, da-da-da-da. What do you make?
Well, I do understand the people feeling about that, because this clown government are telling us what to do all the time, and I can't stand it, frankly. You know, they're idiots. And but I do believe it should be zero. I used to go to Norway many years ago, and for 35 plus years, Norway has been zero. Not only zero, but if you're caught with any alcohol in your driving, they put you straight into jail, or I think it's a month. And you know, so I believe it should be zero, because it takes all the doubt away. You know, you're travelling home and you think, oh, I've had 2 pints, but Christ, there's a police car behind me, you know, I'm thinking...
I agree, and you've just said, which is really good about Norway. Mark in Croydon says, Dubai is a great scheme, Jess, where you drive to a bar, then they book you a safe driver to drive you and your car home, which is really, really interesting. Listen, mate, great to have you supporting Chester, 77 years young. Great to have you on. Thank you, Kev. 25 to 8, loads to go on about this morning, including workplace banter. This is because there was a lady... she's a Brazilian lady, and she didn't like the fact that somebody tried to do a Brazilian accent. I'm not going anywhere near there. That would be wrong. She sued, went to a tribunal because she was full of anxiety. Won £35,000, but you'll be pleased to know her anxiety's gone. She's now working in Hooters, apparently at some sort of restaurant that Christian and his wife went to in Las Vegas, but that's another story. But more importantly, workplace banter. Is it okay to take the... Is it okay? In this world, maybe not. What do you think, Sal? Morning.
Many moons ago, in the 60s, I worked for a major bank, and it was the time of the Mini. And one of the management used to call me Long Legs, and I thought it was hilarious. I'm sure these days I'd be able to sue them for I don't know how many thousands. But it was all in good fun. Nobody meant any harm by it. And for heaven's sake, these days you can't say a word, can you? And this man who supposedly runs the country, well, he'll do anything to make us miserable. Sally, Lincolnshire.
Sorry, I know I've got to an age. It was the time of the Mini. Oh, mini skirt! I thought, what's she talking about the car for? Are you allowed to say mini skirt? Is that the short one? We're getting back to the Brazilian in a minute. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
One of the things I promised when I took up the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show is I would be honest with what goes on in the background, because frankly, with the misery that is in this country, he's off his knees now, is he? Damien, who's a sort of lovable rogue who we're not sure what he does a lot without doing anything. He spilt water on the desk and it's gone down several holes, and I think the whole thing's about to blow up. And there's a young man who... He's on his knees again. All I could see was Damien and a young man's head. Anyway, he's under the desk. Apparently we're sorting it out. Good morning, Jester. Says Slim from Burnley. Are you allowed to say that? I'm a retired prison officer and back in my prime. He's obviously let it go a bit. I was 6'4" and weighed 20 stone. One day, whilst checking in a new inmate, he called me Slim. Everyone thought it was hilarious, and so did I. That was 40 years ago. But since that day, I was called Slim by everybody. Friends, family and fellow officers, and I didn't mind. Can you imagine if that happened now? Not really. Jackie from Glasgow, loving Jeremy in the morning, cheers me right up. Really? You must have had a sad, sad and miserable life beforehand. Now, here's a story we keep going back to, and I want to do this in a correct way, and I made this decision. This was actually me yesterday, editorial, you know. Front page of the Sun, as we've said, one for the road. Drink drive limit could be a pint. There could be breathalyzers put in your cars. Many people, quite rightly, absolutely talking about the safety, road safety, drink driving. Many more saying, hold on a minute, this is just a government that can't allow us to make our own decisions. This is a nanny state. What about the pub industry? Two people now head-to-head, which will mean if we get this right, they'll be on either side of the screen. We say good morning to Rod Dennis, Data Insight Site spokesman for the RAC. That sounds bloody exciting. And Steve Berry, former Top Gear presenter, friend of no one, workplace banter outcast, and Frank knows my mate. Rod, how old are you?
Oh, we started the interview with that. I'm 44 in a few weeks, Jeremy.
Bloody hell, man. 44? You look so young. I was literally going to... A bit of workplace banter. I was going to say, have you ever driven? You look about 18. Thank you for coming on. Do me a favour from a serious point of view before Steve Berry starts mancuniing it. The reality of this story this morning, and I've made the point all day, safety is massively important, drink driving is abhorrent, but the reaction to it is very interesting politically. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts. What's the reality of what this law will mean, Rod?
Well, there's a few different things going on here. So, first thing, it's important to say this is about a consultation. The government can't go and do these things without consulting on people. So there's nothing completely planned at the moment. But look, as we understand it, the drink driving limit in England will come down to match Scotland's. Now, England's drink drive limit is out of step with many other countries.
Is it?
We can argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but at the moment, you could argue that it sends the message that drinking and driving, to a degree, might be all right. But for us, so we can discuss that. But I think for us, there's a much bigger element here, and that is the commitment by the government to look into the idea of alcohol interlocks for offenders. So just to be clear, this is not about us all having breathalyzers put in our cars that stop us starting our cars. This is about the possibility for a court, when they catch a drink driver, to install a device that stops that driver being able to drive again unless they can demonstrate that they are sober.
What does that device do? Does it cut the engine out if they try and drive?
Yeah, so you can't start the car without blowing into it in a very specific way.
What if you nick somebody else's car or borrow your mate's car?
In theory, yes, but this is about what we can do to make things better than we can today. And what we know is surely the focus here, if this is around safety, we should be taking the drivers that represent the greatest risk on the roads off the roads. Now, those aren't necessarily
I'm not being cynical at all. I want to bring Steve in. And this is just, I haven't prepared any of this, but I'm sitting here and I get I agree about the safety. I'm not even talking about liberty, but I just said to you, what about if you drove somebody else's car? If you take their licence away, legally, Steve, they're also going to drive if they're going to drive. I completely, Rod, get what you're saying. Steve, where are you in on this? Do you think this is good? Do you think this is bad? What do you make of it, pal?
Well, I haven't heard anybody yet say it's bad, but that's only because the only people I've seen being asked are the sort of corporate shills for all of these organisations who state the bleeding obvious. Yes, we obviously don't want people to drink and drive. That's, as you said, Jezza, that is an abhorrent thing. However, one thing that they don't seem to be able to do is to tell us, in layman's terms, not micrograms per millilitres, they won't tell us in layman's terms. I spent an hour and a half looking last night, after you called me to come on here, to try and get a straight answer as to how many drinks. And of course, they rub their hands and they go, well, everyone's different. And they always finish off the medical explanation of how it's to do with how much body weight you carry and whether you've had something to eat. And at the end, they say, best not to have any alcohol at all. So what they're really talking about now is the death of pubs. That's what this conversation is actually about, the death of pubs. My dad's favourite pub, the Fisherman's Retreat, it's been there for 33 years, up in the hills above Manchester. Beautiful spot, believe it or not, Jezza. It's time. Tom Kerridge was on yesterday talking about the horrendous business rates that hospitality businesses have to pay. What we're talking about, if it comes down to people not even thinking they can have one drink, this is not about the old days when you thought you could have 2 pints of average strength and still probably drive. This is people being told best not to have a drink at all.
Steve, you would be, I'm sure, not surprised. Right? I get the safety thing. I'm completely with Steve. I think that the pub industry has been utterly decimated by business rates increases, by minimum wage increases. I think that it's seen as the hub of the local community. I think it is the death of that. I think I'm not into conspiracy. I'm not talking sinister. I think this government is interested in its nanny state approach. But from a driving point of view, I'm picking holes in it because I don't see how you police that. And I'm going to ask you a question that I know Steve will agree with. Do you not think we should trust people and say, that's what you can do, those are the consequences, now go live your life? And shouldn't my government be concentrating on slightly more important things than trying to police people's habits? Maybe I'm missing the point. Roger, what do you make of that, Rod?
Well, look, I think we have to remember again, you mentioned I do a lot of the data. 1 in 5 fatalities on the UK's roads are caused by someone drinking and driving, and those figures aren't going down anymore. So this is about the levers I think the government can pull to try to actually make a difference. And I think this is where, again, I come back to these alcohol interlocks, Jeremy, because they're actually a preventative measure. They are something that could stop someone who routinely drinks and drives from doing again. They're internationally proven.
You'd agree with them, Steve, wouldn't you? What Rod's saying, you'd agree with them, would you, or not?
No, not at all. You can buy a car in the UK, used car now, believe it or not. I've done it twice. I did it twice in 2025. You can buy a car with an MOT for under 500 quid. Do you think people will just have another sneaky car like they had when they might be going on a Friday afternoon to see somebody they shouldn't be going on a Friday afternoon? They might have another sneaky car a few streets away that they park underneath, next to a phone box underneath the lamp post. As if folk couldn't find a way around that if they want to.
That's true, Rod, isn't it?
We've got to make driving safer, but we've had something said there that's simply not true. The figures aren't going down in terms of death and serious injury. What is happening is that the pace of them decreasing is slowing down if you compare it to the 70s and the 80s and 90s. Now, to Tintin there, that might seem a long time ago, but I was driving then and I remember what it was like, and it wasn't right. People did used to drink and drive. People didn't wear a seatbelt. We didn't have cars that are massively safer than they used to be with all kinds of driver aids. There comes a point, I think I'm with you on this, Jezza, there comes a point where you've got to say to the government, just leave us be, will you? We understand, we get it, but just get your hand off our bloody car keys.
Rod?
Well, look, I think this needs to be about a grown-up conversation now, doesn't it? About whether we accept the level of fatalities and killed and serious injuries that we have in this country. Yes, I accept your point, Steve. Wait, let me finish. Let me finish.
Likely or seriously injured on the road. It's not stopping me from riding a motorbike. Guess what, pal? You get up in the morning, you put your big boy trousers on and you go out in the world, and there is risk involved in that. Do you think Britain was built on zero risk? Oh, let's not go to the other side of the world in a ship. We might all drown. There can't be no risk in life. Where is the point where you're going to stop us? Where is the point where it's going to stop? I'll tell you where the point is where it's going to stop. Drinking alcohol is just going to become illegal. That's effectively what they're doing. They're saying you can't drink outside the house unless you can walk to the place where you can have a drink. That's what they're saying.
Let him jump in. I haven't got much time. Rod?
As I say, I think this needs to begin today, a grown-up conversation about whether, as a country with a lot of motorists in it, we accept the level of fatalities on our roads today. We either say that's okay and we do nothing about it, or we look for specific things we can do. And this is why I go back to talk about alcohol locks. They would stop, okay, not in all instances, but in a vast majority of instances, in other countries, they are credited with stopping people intoxicated.
Can I
getting out the
can I
road
ask a question? And I love this sort of debate because that's what the world's about. 1 in 5, you say, Steve, give me a minute. 1 in 5 are caused by drink driving. I will absolutely re-say what I've said all morning. Nobody wants that. I think it's outrageous, despicable. Anybody should have the book thrown at them. I understand more than perhaps other people would imagine why I feel we should be able to make our own decisions and suffer the consequences in the nanny state and all that. But what about 80% of the fatalities on the road? What's the RAC doing about that?
Well, look, there's lots else that's a problem as well. I'm not saying drink driving is the only thing.
No, but I'm asking if 4/5 of a problem is not caused by alcohol. I'm not justifying the alcohol thing. I've been very honest about that. Yeah. But what are the government? What sort of declaration of intent, along with the RAC and anybody else, are they making about 80% of deaths on the road? Because that's just bad driving. Why are we not doing more about bad driving?
There's a big degree, Jeremy, to which this is actually, a lot of this is down to sort of human error, right? Until we've got vehicles that can drive themselves around on their own, it's going to be impossible to eliminate that. This is about identifying the things that we can do to actually bring the number of deaths down. And there are things that can be done. We can debate whether they're the right things or not, absolutely. Very happy to do that. But what levers can be pulled that, you know, don't take away people's liberties, but actually make a meaningful difference on those figures? If we accept the figures are all right, then we'll just get on with things. But I don't think many people, and certainly many families out there who have, you know, seen the consequences of people specifically drinking and driving while heavily over the limit, and in many cases people are heavily over the limit, actually accepting the status quo. We've got to do something. The question is what we do.
Rod, brilliant. Final word from you, Steve. Go.
You know what he said there? Until we have cars that can drive us around. That's what they want, isn't it? They want our cars. Oh, you can't be trusted with a car or a motorbike. I tell you what, here's a lovely car. And of course they've got them now.
I will never get in a car that drives itself, sorry. I'm too old-fashioned. I wouldn't trust that in a million years. Guys, I'd love to talk more. We can't. Steve, we love you. Rod, great to come on. Thank you so much indeed. The debate will continue. One for the road. Labour's plans, only a declaration of intent. Of course it is. They're basically saying, and I quote, we should drop the legal limit to 1. I'm not against that, but what about pubs? What about liberty? And what about people being able to make their own damn choices? Do you know what I was just thinking? I was looking at the cricket. 8 minutes to 8. Bob Seeley's next. Busy morning.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say.
So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 5 to 8. So much going on. Workplace banter, drink driving. But one of the things that happened overnight, Britain and France formally committing to deploying troops in Ukraine, boots on the ground as part of the, the coalition of the willing if Putin decides that he's going to call some sort of truce. Dr. Bob Seeley, former Conservative MP, military expert. You going for a plane. I'm heading to the news. I've got 5 minutes. Morning, Bob. How are you?
Morning. I'm very well. How are you?
They tell me you're very angry about this.
I'm not so angry about that. I think I'm confused about this sort of Greenland malarkey that's going on. But look, I mean, if there is going to be a peace deal, that's wonderful. I just can't see it. It's like everyone who wants peace is going to make a deal. The one person who has to make the deal is Putin. And what he said is, we're not having NATO troops anywhere near Ukraine because he still wants to grab the place. So it's great that everyone's signing up to these deals, but unless the man who started the war, unless the man who invaded Ukraine, unless the man who's committed his country to keep killing Ukrainians, and he's got over 1 million casualties himself, until he decides he wants peace, then it's all so much pie in the sky. That's all I'm saying. There's also risk of putting UK troops there. I mean, I think we've got to be careful with the state the British Army's in at the moment. You know, as a former soldier, I know sadly how much it's been run down by both by all governments since the early 2000s.
I couldn't agree more. And also, as an ex-army person, you know that I spent months, and always will, saying that this is not just Ukraine's war, it could be Europe's war. I think it's a despot. I get all of that, right? What I don't understand is, and you made a really good point, there's more migrants in this country in the last 18 months than are in our armed forces.
I know.
But to me, it's just political posturing, and it's a declaration of intent, Bob. It's the coalition of the willing, or the willies, as somebody else said. It's the two men, actually, Macron and Starmer, because I didn't see anybody else, really, who have got enough domestic problems to think that actually if we go to Paris and try and do something a bit different, it might detract a bit. I just think it's political posturing. Maybe I'm wrong. You're right. Putin doesn't want a bloody ceasefire. Of course he doesn't.
I think sadly, I think we are right, and this is the problem. And look, if we had a really punchy armed force, if we'd been investing in it in the last 20 years, if we'd slowly built it up to mirror Putin's Cold War and to mirror what the Chinese were doing, you know, if we had a really muscular ability at the moment, that would be great. But we don't, and the problem is we are in danger of overextending ourselves. And, you know, I'm for having a built-up army. I think, you know, we should go back to that basic division strength and, you know, have a bigger fleet and actually invest in defense and foreign policy, because frankly we're going to need it increasingly. Look at the crazy things the Americans are doing in Greenland. It's just
Let's talk about that briefly, because I've probably got a different view to you. I'm not sticking up for the Orange Man baby and everything. I'd like to have somebody here with his cojones, but what he does is he postures a lot. You think about his argument with defence spending. I think he had every right to say, hold on a second, NATO, I'm spending whatever I am, billions, and you lot are white, 1%, 2%, 3%. And suddenly, even the UK government jumped on board and said, we'll spend more of our GDP. Is this not him saying, it's yet again the Americans who have to pay for Greenland, I'm going to do something unless you lot get your fingers out of wherever they are?
Yeah, okay, I was reading his after the deal this morning, or a paragraph from it. I aim very high, and then I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing till I get what I'm after. Sometimes I settle for less, but in most cases, I still end up with what I want. Maybe, look, I mean, is he going to invade? Probably not, because it would probably break NATO, but he might just have a little bit of economic coercion to get a much better deal than he's getting. But look, they already have military bases there. So I think there is just, for your friends, there's a better way for doing business.
Yeah,
I was not against the Venezuela thing. I think, you know, there's a moral case, because, I mean, you don't see Venezuela on the news in the UK. Why? Because it's a Marxist failed state and it isn't really interesting to the mainstream media. But it's actually been a calamitous disaster. And what Trump is doing is defensible, because he's kicking out somebody who's oppressing his own people. I think there's a case for what was happening in Venezuela. I don't see that for Greenland, because you're dealing with your friends.
What about, very quickly, Colombia, he says, might be next on the list?
Yeah, I think you don't want to overextend. So, I mean, so much for Trump being an isolationist. He's clearly not.
Mate, it's always great. Happy New Year. Everything good in your world?
Yeah, very good, actually. Yeah, all good.
All right, great to have you on. We'll speak to you very soon. Former Tory MP and military expert, Dr. Bob Seeley. Always great to have him on. Almost 8 o'clock, we're live across the UK. Jeremy Kyle on breakfast. On Talk Home of Common Sense, you're waking up to the news that the government won for the road. Drink drive limit could be a pint. New blow for the struggling pub industry. Is this good for drink driving? Yes, for safety. Is it good for liberty? I don't know. What about workplace banter? We've lost all sense of humour. There was a Brazilian woman. They took the mickey out of her accent. She got £35,000 because of the anxiety. Is that fair or right? I want to let you know she's all right, though. She's got over the anxiety. She's working in Hooters now. News at 8 next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you, my friends. Just gone 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. JK at breakfast on Talk. It's the home of common sense. It's the home of alarm clock Brits and working Britons, and we're delighted to take your involvement on all the stories. God, what a morning. If you want to be on, use your number for your voice notes, 0344 499 1000. Your text messages, 87222. There are serious things in the news. One for the road. You'll have heard it in the news, just. Labour's idea. Only a sort of consultation. You remember that with Labour, they'll kick it down the road. But they think the drink drive limit should go to a pint. We're all for safety. They think that maybe there should be a chip in certain people's cars that would stop them driving if they've been convicted. Maybe they're just getting another one, just my opinion. Lots of you saying, what about our liberty? This nanny state, is it taking over? Can't we make our own damn decisions? And what about the pub industry? What about an industry that's been decimated, of course, by business rate increases, NI increases, minimum wage increases, that really struggles? And more of you saying, well, the pub was always synonymous with the local community, the hub of where you would go. And it was really, really important. Other news, of course, you heard Bob Seeley there, perhaps just before the news. Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron decided yesterday the coalition of the willing, they've declared that British and French troops will, in fact, go on the ground in Ukraine if there's a ceasefire. Not that there's going to be one. Your thoughts on that? And also just a bit of a light-hearted story, because it's really worked. The 30-year-old Brazilian woman, I don't know her name, she had the mickey taken out of her accent at work, which she took offence to. She became very stressed, very anxious, nearly had a breakdown, took them to a tribunal and won £35,000. But as I say, the good news is she's now working at Hooters, which made us just throw out a bit light-hearted. Is a bit of workplace banter amongst the misery that is our lives okay? Morning, Dan.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Dan from Kent. So our great leader, Keir Starmer, thinks a photo opportunity, a few hugs with comrades and a rambled speech will secure Ukraine's 1,200-mile border with Russia. Fiddling whilst Rome burns springs to mind. On a lighter note, I work with a guy who's got a limp. He's known as a sniper's nightmare. Great show.
Mark, good morning.
Jeremy, this is Mark from Essex. I did 33 years in the police, and we had some brutal banter between us. What it does, it draws you together as a team, and it hardens you against the people outside who actually mean the things they say. I remember being on a march in the 80s when a woman who was probably about 10 years older than me said to my friend in front, and all we were doing was walking next to them, escorting the march. There was nothing else going on. She said, I hope you get AIDS and die. And then she said afterwards, I hope you get cancer and die. It's more painful. I think it's all part of being British as well, being a laugh at ourselves and each other. And I think it's very sad that it's gone, and I'd rather people say it to my face than talk about it behind my back as well, which is another point. Cheers, mate. Bye.
It was supposed to be a bit light-hearted, the workplace banter. Good morning to Jackie. Now, this is more like it. You know, have a sense of humour. This is Jackie, not me. She says, decades ago, I was nicknamed Norma's Knockers. Some old friends still refer to me as Norma. Years ago, we weren't precious, and we had a bit of bleeding fun. Hello to Debbie from Surrey. I remember... Can I do that one? Yeah? I've got to do this correctly. Just don't concentrate, Alicia, right? Hi, Jez. I remember working for a city financial institution, and a colleague used to ask me every day to come in for some dictation. Start on me. Morning, Jez. Great show. I grew up on a carpentry apprenticeship. It was the best time, and banter was part of the fun. Christian, in his guise as the best ever, has come up with a list. I'm going to be this is just a bit of fun. Nicknames for co-workers, OK? None of this will be allowed. Kit Kat. Always taking a break. Brilliant. Butter knife. Not the sharpest tool in the box. I'm loving that. Arthur. Does half a job. Motion light. Only works when someone walks past. Seaweed. Floats around all day and stinks like whatever. Lantern. Not very bright and has to be carried. But my favourite to call your work colleague. This reminds me of Damien. From now on, Damien's going to be called G-Spot, because you can never find them. 8 minutes past 8, we say a very good morning to the legend that is Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. What did they used to call you, big man?
I was called Snaggletooth because my teeth were in terrible shape. As you can see, I've spent a lot of money on them since.
Hasn't worked.
And my favourite was I used to call John Sykes, who was the MP for Scarborough. I used to call him Psycho. It clearly irritated him because after a while he said, I do have another name, you know. But anyway, it was all... I always think that when you are doing that sort of stuff, that sort of banter, it's what is your intent? And if it's to actually cheer somebody up and it's a bit of a laugh, then I don't see the problem. It's when somebody's being absolutely vindictive and that they're really trying to bring you down, then that's a different intent, isn't it?
But I think you can tell, you see, I'm old-fashioned. I think a bit of a laugh is a bit of a laugh. Can I just cut off before we get serious? I can't believe I just said G-Spot. My 6-year-old wants to mention. Oliver and Iris are in the car on the way to school. Ollie, day 2. I hope it goes well, mate. Love you both very much. See you very soon. 8 minutes past 8. Nige, great to have you on. So much to talk about. I want to start...
Well, I tell you what, Jeremy, talking about humour, I watched Ricky Gervais's programme on Netflix last night, and I got to tell you, I think I laughed from beginning to end.
The man does not care. I bowed. I mean, he's bought this big house. I don't know if you've seen this on Instagram, and he's got a tennis court because he loves tennis, and he's always taking the mickey out of his Mrs. Jane. And he's got a picture of her sweeping the tennis court, viewed by millions, and the caption just goes, Jesus, I want to play. Can you hurry up? I need to get her a bigger broom. I mean, people, it's OK, isn't it? Maybe you get to a point where you can't be cancelled. I've been cancelled.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, I am. Right, listen, we're there. Front page of The Sun. I just wanted to pick up on this story with you. It's the story that's dominating in every newspaper, one for the road. This government, this Labour government, planning to limit drivers to 1 pint or even less in the tightening of drink driving laws. Had somebody on from the RAC earlier, Nige, saying they're going to also advertise or try and put in little chips in cars to stop, known drink drivers driving. I said, well, you'd get in another car. Now, all of us concerned about car safety, get that. Anybody who drinks and drives, abhorrent. But what about adults, human beings being able to make their own decisions? What about the liberty of freedom of just... What about the nanny state taking over? That's the one thing that worries me about that. The other, probably as much so, is the decimation and the attack again on the British pub. And what is it going to do to that sector of hospitality that's on its knees, Nigel Evans?
Well, as you may remember, Jeremy, I used to be president of the all-party beer group in the House of Commons.
You did.
I took my position so seriously, I actually bought a house next to a pub. And in an emergency, I could be in that pub in 3 seconds. We just saw some footage there of 3 Labour ministers in a pub. Well, I doubt whether you can get one in a pub these days because so many of them are being banned by landlords and landladies because of their absolute assault on pubs, particularly rural pubs. And the front page of The Sun saying that they're going to limit the drink to just 1 pint. Clearly is going to be a real problem for the more rural pubs because, literally a lot of these villages do not have rural transport at all. And if somebody's going out and they're just going to have like a pint and a bit, a pint and a half or whatever it is, right? Absolutely, we want to make sure that people are going to remain safe. But they've lowered the limits in Scotland, and yet the number of accidents on the roads is increasing in Scotland. We We haven't. The number of accidents within England is actually going down. So I really don't see where this is coming from.
It seems, Nige, to us, just after a couple of hours of talking about it, it's a bit like troops on the ground. It's a declaration of intent. It's to go to consultation. And it seems to me to be, I have to say, I've said it all morning, nobody agrees with drink driving. But at what point do we say, you might have heard this, probably you didn't, I said it a lot earlier. I just happened to see a clip from Mrs T, that's about 30, 40 years ago, and she said the point of government is not to control people's lives in some sort of nanny state effect. It's to make sure that the government legislates and carries out what the people want to make their lives better. And I think this is another example of Starmer and his ilk trying to tell us what to do. That doesn't mean I'm condoning people who drink driving. They're abhorrent, but I just don't see it. And again, the biggest issue this morning from people about this, Nige, which might surprise you, is that all of them, to a person, are saying, it's all well and good, mate, but do we not think there are more important things in this country to deal with right now?
Yeah, well, I think if the government carries on in the way that they are, it really won't matter about the pubs because they won't be existing. We know that they're under assault. We know that with the extra costs that have just been heaped upon them, including employers' national insurance, the minimum wage has gone up, which clearly is having an impact on them, and then the business rates as well, which pubs were told before the general election they were going to be protected. Now pubs are seeing their business rates doubling and trebling. So there won't be any pubs around anyway. I mean, it is absolutely appalling. And we've seen at least one pub a day in Britain closing last year, Jeremy. It's absolutely appalling. We've got to get behind the Great British Pub.
I would have thought so, but
it's the heart of the community.
Somebody said earlier that they're the hub of the community, and that's where people go to have discussions, and perhaps the Labour Party doesn't like that. You'll share a call with me, will you not, sir? Let's go to Wales. Ian, you're on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, and Nigel Evans is here. What you got, pal?
Morning, Jeremy. I've been heavy goods driver for over 45 years, and they always highlight the drink driving aspect. But I can tell you, most accidents are from people not indicating or on the mobile phones. See it all the time. I've seen people driving, watching videos, reading newspapers. Yeah, and I agree with you. Our pubs have been under threat for so long. It's disgusting. That is a multi-million-pound industry. Let's bring it back.
I mean, my point, I think Nigel would share this, and I take yours, Ian, is you know, this government came to power talking about growth. Why did I do it like that? And growth in my world is created by small and medium-sized businesses flourishing, making products, employing people, and the money permeates down. Pubs, the hospitality industry, is central to that. They were decimated during the pandemic, and this is another kick in the teeth. And I said to the guy from the RAC, Nige, I said to him, he was talking about that, thank you so much, by the way, Ian, somebody about like these clicks you can put in a car to stop. Right, to stop people driving. Just nick another car. Just go to your friend's car. It's too much. I don't get it at all. I really don't.
Yeah, and limiting it to 1 pint. I suspect some of the problems with the drink drivers is they go well in excess of the limits that are currently there.
Yeah.
And so they're ignoring the current rules. And I think you've really got to drive hard against those sorts of people, those who are being convicted.
I see what you did there, drive hard. Hello to Owen in Sussex. That was clever. In the countryside, pubs are a lifeline, especially for single men like me. Drink and chat after work is often our only social outlet. Why does this appalling government hate rural workers, and many could say the rural side of so much again? Morning, Lee in Hampshire, Nige. Sorry, this reduced drink drive limit is just state control in any state. Look at the pubs in the evening. Nobody is there. So if anything, drink driving must be down. This is a blow to struggling pubs, absolutely. And just one final one for now, which I think is really interesting. Rich says, Nige, the limits are low enough. Anyone who drinks heavily wants to break the law. This is to finish off rural pubs and restaurants. Ireland and Scotland have a lower limit, makes no difference to deaths, but has wiped out that part of the hospitality industry.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to say, there's a lot of younger people these days who don't drink at all. And so that's one issue. And whoever the caller said that they pass some pubs and you look in and there's hardly anybody in them at certain nights, that's absolutely true. Mondays and Tuesdays, some pubs close because they just simply haven't got the clientele there. The government's really got to wake up and see the problems that the pub industry is facing in Britain. Do you know, I go abroad quite a bit, as you may know, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
And the one thing that is absolutely brilliant about the United Kingdom is the Great British Pub. You have a ton of Americans who come here, and when you say to them, what's one of the favourite things about the UK? They all laugh and say, the pub. We love going to the British pub. And it is absolutely under threat by this government.
Couldn't agree more. We also did a story today. It was a local story, but it highlights a bigger issue, and we talk about, you know, what's important right now. We came upon a restaurant, the Chino Bar and Restaurant in Portswood in Southampton, that has to close or has had to close its doors on New Year's Day after 20 years, Nige. Really nice little business, good restaurant, really good in the community. Basically, Asylum Hotel right next door. Asylum seekers in Highfield House Hotel have damaged the restaurant, shouted abuse at customers, banged on the walls. There's trouble outside, trouble inside, police, protesters. It's a family business that employs people. It's great in the community, closing down because, again, a council or a government is saying it's right to put these illegal men, who we don't know who the hell they are, who are absolutely creating pandemonium locally, will prefer them than a restaurant that's good for the community. It makes no bloody sense. We're sitting here talking about drink driving, and our country, whether people like it or not, is, I don't say being flooded, I don't know the right word, with thousands and thousands of unvetted young criminal men. And when the hell are we going to do something about it? Dreadful.
Yeah, that's right. You've normally got a little graph that tells you how many people have...
Nearly 70,000, buddy. Nearly 70,000.
Yeah, nearly 70,000. And that was when Starmer promised the British people in July 2024 that he was going to stop the boats, and he clearly hasn't done that. As you say, nearly 70,000 are coming in, and they're being put in hotels. In some parts of the country, the hotel in that area normally would have tourists coming in to stay there, which then people spend money in the community. These hotels are being taken out of service completely and destroying clearly the livelihoods of that particular... It looks a really nice place in Southampton. Yeah. And I read the article this morning, and the chap said, listen, this has got nothing to do with the financial structure of the business, because they are looking now to set up somewhere else. So it is really at the very... the real problem for that business has been the fact that the car park was closed by the hotel, so that people couldn't come. They had nowhere to park. And as you say, the disruption to the business. I mean, you can't carry on like that. Why were the police not doing their job, protecting a business that is paying business rates?
Mate, you look at Epping, we've got a government that took a council who bravely got a migrant hotel closed down, the Bell Hotel, because it was actually it was housing migrants who were sexually assaulting girls, young girls from a school next door. The council went to court, got it closed down. Our own government went, no, we're not doing that. The rights of migrants are more important than those of the local community. What the bloody hell do we expect to happen if that's the reality, right?
It does seem to me that we have a government that is on the side of people who illegally enter the United Kingdom, which is, it's got to be against the law to do that. They should be already deemed guilty of a crime.
Doesn't make sense, Nigel. How can that make sense? We got another call. They love you, Nigel Evans, almost as much as I do. Let's go to Hertfordshire. Tim, good morning. Nigel Evans is with me. You're on.
Good morning. Not quite Hertfordshire, Herefordshire.
Brilliant. I can't read. That's because I need my glasses. Thanks for humiliating me, Tom. Oh, it's Tim. Sorry.
No problem at all. This is my first rodeo.
It's your what?
It's not my first rodeo.
Did he say rodeo or radio?
Rodeo.
Brilliant. Crack on.
No, my comms were related to this desire to attack the pubs, the pub industry, people who enjoy a beer, etc. When I get an opportunity when I'm not working and go to the local pub, I enjoy a pint. I know I ultimately cannot have in any way, shape or form more than one. I totally acknowledge that. And when I look around all the pubs, I see the very, very vast majority of people who are driving sticking to that same situation. We're all relatively straightforward. If they were to introduce this, as said, I couldn't have a drink. I wouldn't be able to drink on a Sunday evening after having a long week's worth of work, including working weekends, etc.
Why can't our government trust us to make our own decisions, right? I'm with you. Why are we being told, not what's right or wrong, but tell me what's right or wrong, right? And allow me to decide whether I'm going to live within the confines of that rule or I'm not. Isn't that the truth?
It is indeed. However, my frustrating brain tells me that it's a plan, a theory to, one could argue, to remove almost everything joyous that we can do. The implementation of the fact that once they started allowing people to buy slabs of beer in the supermarket for a tenth of the price of a pub pint, it was the beginning of the end.
Let's bring Nigel in. Nigel, thoughts on that from Tim?
No, it's totally, absolutely right. The amount of beer that you can get in a supermarket compared to the skill in pulling a pint of beer, and I should know because I've pulled a few in my time, it's a completely different product. You know, sitting at home with a can of beer and being out being social within your community is absolutely fantastic. Tim is making a good point. When I'm in the Swan with Two Necks, there's a person who comes in who's just been working, and he comes in and he has a pint just before he gets home, you know? So all of this could be under threat, absolutely. And people, you know, they are able, they know what they're able to do within the limits. As long as they stay within those limits that are currently there, reducing them is just going to further put a nail in the coffin of the pub.
Couldn't agree anymore. Tim, thank you for your call. Tom from Hertfordshire. Nigel Evans, we love you, man. How's the book going? Good?
All right, it's starting again on the 12th of January. So, as I say, I'm on 25 chapters at the moment. And so I'm going out to Spain on the 12th, and I'll start cracking on with the next few chapters.
Good man. Listen, great to have you on. We'll have you on next week. Thank you, Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons and Conservative MP for the Ribble Valley, 8:23. This is Talk Breakfast. Back in 3.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, you know, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, welcome back. It's 8:25. We're live across the United Kingdom on the home of Common Sense. JK at breakfast, if you want to be part of this vain attempt at a show, 0344 499 1000 for your voice notes. We're talking workplace banter because, you know, frankly, it's all a bit serious nowadays. I love this. Morning, Tony. This is because the Brazilian woman, I did the story this morning, wins £35,000. One of our senior engineers, who's a lady, has arrived. She's laughing. Listen to this story, OK? Woman, 30, Brazilian. Somebody takes the mickey out of her accent at work. She gets stressed and has anxiety, takes them to tribunal, wins £35,000. Do you think that's good? She's thinking, can you take the mickey out of my accent, Jez? But she was so traumatised, she's recovered and she's now working in Hooters. Hello to Tony. It's true. Hello, Tony. He says, re-workplace banter. A friend of mine had a colleague called Tony who was just about 5'0". They used to call him Shetland. Johnny, Jez, I was a cop at the time. They did away with the height restrictions and ended up with a very short officer on my rota. He was quickly christened Laptop because he was a small PC. Come on! It gets better. A more recent one that made me laugh was when PC 3999 was christened 40 quid. Oh, man. What happened to laughing? What have we got? Jezza, Johnny from Carlisle. It's not bullying, it's character buildings. Steve, short blokes at my work were called Lofty and tall blokes was called Short House. Brilliant. James in Barnsley. I work at a heavy plant machinery tool a shop, and we had an apprentice mechanic who had a dodgy leg, so we called him Slack Track. Honestly, I just love a British sense of humour. Morning, Greavesy!
Do you know what I mean? Do you get many complaints when you do a Newcastle accent or a Birmingham accent? I know you're from Birmingham. Or a Cockney accent, for instance. Do many people complain about it? Or there's just these pathetic losers who know they're going to get backing from the government and pay them thousands and thousands of pounds for actually being a pathetic, weak loser? Jesus, I work at a firm, electricians and plumbers, right? A small family firm, there's 7 of us. There's also a lady who works in the office. If any of them come into this office in the morning before we're ready to go to work, when we're having a bit of banter, I honestly think they would just collapse on the floor in a heap and die.
Why, aye, man, but I'd like to make the point, man. I can't do it. Listen, what was his name? Greavesy? I am not from Birmingham. Sorry, there's much that I will let go, but that is not right. I can do it, but I'm not from there at all, mate. All right, here we go, 8:30. We're going to say a very good morning to a very serious political journalist, a man whose career has just taken off into the stratosphere. He holidays in Barbados, he's got a penthouse somewhere in Mayfair, and he's now the political editor of The Sun, and I discovered him. Good morning, Jack Elsom.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm good. This is a serious question. You work at The Sun. You're the political editor. What's your take on, and what's it like in the office there, workplace banter? Is it gone forever, or is there still a place? This is this great story in the Mail this morning about the Brazilian woman, which I'm sure you've heard about. She was totally stressed with having the mickey taken out of being Brazilian. I mean, I've never done a Brazilian. I have seen one. See, that's come out wrong.
Neither have I. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Do you think?
I tell you what. I mean, the workplace environment at The Sun, and I'm not just saying this because I'm contractually obliged to say it, but it is absolutely fantastic. And you know, in our parliamentary office, we've got a team of 5 of us, and the banter is just back and forward. Noah, Martina, Ryan especially. He's been around the block for a bit.
Sabi has been around the block, to be fair, hasn't he? Yeah.
He sort of like sits there listening to a conversation, and then we'll just come out with an absolute zinger, which puts us all in stitches. So, you know,
do you worry,
banter alive and kicking in the Sun offices.
And I'd say the same here in talk, but do you worry? Do you hold back on saying certain things? I'm sort of known as the old granddad who you have to be careful of, but I do think there is a point between being respectful and also just letting go in a world that seems so full of misery, pal.
I think that people are treading on eggshells, and I think that especially if you have a team environment that isn't maybe very conducive to to trust and friendship, whatever, then obviously you are going to have people that might look to to take something out of context or whatever. But I think you're right, and I think that this is especially the great tragedy of the explosion in working from home, is that people just are not going to get the same interactions with their colleagues that they otherwise would have done if they were in the office 5 days a week, because you do foster that sense of trust, you foster that sense of bonding. It's a big important asset that we have have at the Sun, where, because of the nature of our jobs, we basically have to be in the office the whole time, and therefore there's a great camaraderie in there, and I do fear that the next generation are really going to lose that.
You got the job as the boss. You don't need to keep... It's fine. You're there. Mate, listen, before we talk about your amazing article, by the way, on page 10 this morning, can I just touch upon the front page of the Current today? One for the road. It's caused great debate. I keep repeating myself for a reason, Jack. I'd love your take on this. Is this, of course, safety important, although I think putting breathalyzer things into people's cars because they could just get another car is ludicrous. I'm just going to be honest. But so many people this morning are saying two things and two things only, Jack. One, is it an infringement against our liability? Is it liberties? Is it more of this nanny state tripe that this government seems interested in? And more than that, what about rural pubs? What about the pub industry? What about pub workers and that whole place, the hub of the local community where people can meet and drink and talk about stuff? I'm not saying it's sinister, but it just, to me, it's... Nobody agrees with drink driving, but it's just another kick in the bit somehow, it seems, from my point of view.
Well, it's definitely a talker. I mean, to put the other side of the case across, and the government would say that these drink driving laws haven't been updated since 1967, and therefore maybe you need to actually, bring us into line with other countries, Scotland, for example. But where's the evidence? Because it doesn't seem, from what I've seen anyway, it doesn't seem that Scotland is particularly much more safe than Britain in terms of a place to drive than England, despite the fact they have much lower drink driving laws. And there will be people here that say this is just the latest iteration of the nanny state, which started really under the Conservatives and is really proliferating under Labour. And there will be people that go, often when you ban things, it is a government which is just out of ideas because it is easy and it is free. If you just say, we're going to ban this, we're going to ban that, try and wheel out any sort of policy whatsoever. And then you make the very potent point about pubs as well, because pubs really are gasping for relief from this government, having been battered by tax hikes, battered by business rate hikes in the budget. And now many country pubs especially that are really feeling the pinch are probably going to have less footfall, less customers and less income because people will not feel able to go to a pub, have a pint and then come home for fear of the long arm of the law coming after them. And, I do think that in this country, we are losing that sense of just common sense. And it seemed to really happen after COVID, where individual responsibility was just taken out of our hands and the state dictated every point of our lives. You make the great point. Everyone believes in road safety. No one will condone someone getting pissed up and going behind the wheel. But people know their own limits. And I think that if you take away the individual responsibility from people, and let's be honest, if someone causes an accident, you should absolutely throw the book at them. And I totally agree with that. But if we lose that sense of taking ownership of our own actions, then what are we going to become as individuals, and what are we going to become as a society?
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I can tie this into your column today, page 10. As hospitality, high streets and small businesses are hurting, the PM does a Ruben Amorim. He clings to the same old tactics and insists results will follow. We saw that dreadfully sort of turgid conversation with Koonsberg on the weekend, where he insisted he'd still be here. There's a great thing in the Sun. It says, in opposition, Labour promised to be pro-business. Whether it's the pubs or the high street, nothing seems to be getting better. In fact, Jack, stuff is getting worse. And he hides behind this, things will get better. And the silent majority, who are becoming the vocal majority, I have to say, are looking at that and going, that's absolute tripe. It isn't getting better. It's getting worse the whole time.
Yeah, I do think there is a danger with prime ministers, and we're now seeing it with Keir Starmer, where they tell people how they are feeling. And I think that people can feel how they are feeling. And is it a really dangerous road to go down politically for a politician that does that? We had Keir Starmer come out at the start of this new year and said, this year, 2026, will be the year where you start to feel better, where you start to see more pounds in your pockets. He talked about money off energy bills. Very dubious, and especially dubious considering Labour promised to cut them by £300, but he parked that. He said the minimum wage would be going up for people, which is true. He said that rail fares and prescription charges would be frozen, also true. But it nibbles around the edges of a much bigger problem, which is that we are living in a high tax, low growth, high welfare state in which he's jacked up tax on businesses, in which he's going to be dragging millions more people into paying higher rates of tax, in which hospitality firms like pubs are, going to be sent to the knackers yard because they are just absolutely squeezed under crippling business rates. And that thing combined altogether is much more damaging than these individual little minutiae bits of tinkering, which, yes, they're a great start, but they're basically handouts and giveaways, whereas actually the fundamental inbuilt problems which are dragging our economy down, they haven't been fixed. And unless I think you have a government come in that really addresses the massive problem of welfare, the massive problem of taxation, then we're going to be having the same old tactics as we compare them to Rumour Amarim. Keir Starmer will be promising jam tomorrow, and the results won't follow.
And I think that's the point. And there are many serious things going on in the world. Right. I don't want to get bogged down, but this meeting yesterday with Macron, we're going to put boots on the ground. I more than anybody have said that Ukraine's war is Europe's war. But the truth is this country, I'm not saying it's war fatigue, Jack, people's priorities. We've got more migrants coming into this country in the 18 months that Starmer's been in power. Is it 18 months? Than we've got in our armed forces. And yes, of course, nobody wants to see drink driving. Nobody with a brain cell thinks that's anything other than abhorrent. But there seem to me to be bigger issues on which he should be dealing with. And one of them, of course, we did this story in The Sun as well, it was today, about the restaurant in Southampton that I've talked about. It's closing after 20 years because there's an asylum hotel right next door and people are terrified and communities are terrified. And that needs attacking. Knife crime, the problems in London and our major cities. Our borders are at best overrun, right? I just don't understand. And you know more about politics than me. I say it almost to you every day about who advises these people. There's just no bigger goal. Let me show you something that we got. This is his first cabinet meeting of the year yesterday. He says, Labour will improve your lives. Tell me after you've watched this, peeps, or heard it, whether you feel inspired. Please play, Mark.
Colleagues, let us make a start. And firstly, welcome to the first cabinet meeting of the year. And I just want to say a few words because in 2026, thanks to the choices that we have already made, more people will begin to feel the change that we promised. In their bills, in their communities and in their health service. So despite the chaos that we inherited, you can already start to see the difference that a Labour government makes.
So, Jack, just very quickly, he says there, in 2026, people will continue to feel better about their lives after the changes that we've made. It's better in our communities. No, many communities are saying to the government they're overrun with illegal migrants and the government, take Epping, backed illegal migrants over their own indigenous population. He says people's bills are coming down. Yesterday he was called out by X for lying, saying that energy isn't coming down by £150, some sort of thing called a community note. And the NHS, where it's about 7 years to see a doctor. The man talks complete tripe. Come on, that's rubbish, Jack Elsom.
Yeah, listen, most people don't ask the world of their politicians. They just want the basics done right. And what they want is they want good public services. They want to feel better off every year than the last. They want immigration kept to manageable levels and they want to feel pretty safe. Now, Keir Starmer seemed to identify some of those things when he addressed the cabinet yesterday. The problem is there's a disconnect between what he is saying, I think, and what he is doing and how the voters are reacting to it. Because if you look at the polls at the moment, Keir Starmer is clearly at historically unpopular levels. And I think that he probably now needs to take stock and try and come up with a better strategy to actually cut through to voters.
I think it's gone beyond that, mate. I don't think he can. I think there's a point with the British public, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, anybody you want to... There comes a point, football managers, anything in life, political editors, DJs, whatever, where you just know that your time's up. It's true. It's absolutely true, isn't it? The tide has gone too far.
Well, listen, I think that many people clearly have made their minds up on this Prime Minister, but people said that about previous Prime Ministers and they managed to come back and rescue things. And so I don't think that it is completely up for Keir Starmer at this stage yet. But then again, I am sort of more of an impartial observer that sort of has to put both sides across. And I'm sure that he would say that there is a way back if he can make pounds go further in people's pockets. I think my problem with him at the moment is that I don't see any strategy beyond just a few minor giveaways that will actually go to any lengths to solve that. And that's why I think that there are fundamental issues here belying this Labour government, whether it's Keir Starmer's own actions or own choices, whether it is him being hamstrung by his backbenchers, who really now are sort of trying to tie him to this left-wing agenda, and he is terrified of upsetting them for fear of being dethroned and other leadership rivals circling. So I think that there is a way in which he can start to grind back credibility with the public, but I don't see any sign at the moment that he is planning on doing that in the way in which I think many voters would want him to do it, which is, lower taxes, get the welfare bill right down, and control immigration. And I think that those three things really, and crime as well, are the bread and butter of any government. And at the moment, it doesn't seem that that's going that way.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Love having you on. All joking apart, you're tip-top. Great article, page 10 today from Jack Elsom, the legend. We appreciate him, and lots in that newspaper that will go. Can I just say, I know it's been deadly serious. We have had a bit of fun about workplace banter, and if you have been offended in anything that's been read out, get a bleeding sense of humour. Lynn's from the Shires, I don't know what that means. She says, we had a lady that took my shift to HR for calling her 3'3". The look on her and HR's face when we explained why was classic. Her name was Amita. Brilliant. Morning, Penny.
Morning, Jezza. Good show, as usual. Just a quick one about this workplace banter malarkey. So, I think banter's good. It can help boost morale and all that sort of stuff. The only thing is, you need to read the room. And sometimes people don't read the room. And then people take offence. That's the main problem. If you know the person and they understand the humour, then it's fine. If you don't know the person, or the person probably doesn't speak very good English, doesn't understand English humour, doesn't understand banter, like this case, then probably not the best idea to try and give them some bants. So that's what I would say. Banter, fine. Please use with caution. It's a little bit like owning a dingle dangle, isn't it, really? It's fine to have one, but don't go waving it around at everyone. People might start getting offended. Good show. Have a good one.
Sorry, a really serious call finished with dingle dangle. What's a dingle dangle? Is that what I think it is? I'm just waving my dingle dangle around. I'm trying to do a breakfast show. Morning, Nick in Chichester. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jeremy. Nice to speak to you.
How's your dingle dangle, Nick?
Oh, it's always good. Always dingling dangling.
Marvellous.
Just want to say, never ring in, really. I'm only ringing in because, for once, I slightly disagree with what you're saying, but that's very, very few and far between.
It's good, though.
Just to let you know, I'm a member. I was in the armed forces for 24 years.
Yep.
I now work in the NHS. I'm a paid-up member of Reform. But, having a drink, it's been proven that, it does knock your ability to do things. I work in the NHS now. We wouldn't be happy laying on a bed about to be operated on, knowing that the doctor and the anaesthetist have just sunk a pint before they come in. And also, we don't allow people to hold guns or anything in the armed forces if they've had a drink. So I think we need to get back to the crux of what Jack Elsom was saying. Really, this is not about the government jumping down on people and spoiling their lives and crushing businesses. What's crushing businesses is the minimum wage, the NICs, the business rate tax, all those things that Jack Elsom...
I don't disagree with you, but my point would only be, buddy, that I don't want to get, unless I'm wrong here, and I could be wrong totally, but maybe I'm judging it on me. I don't need my government to tell me that I shouldn't have more than 2 pints. If I felt this government was doing it for reasons that were different than just political posturing or showing an intent or reading a room or not, I would do it, but I don't drink and drive. That's my decision. If you're going to drink and drive, you're going to drink and drive, whether it's 1 pint, 2 pints or 20 pints, and you shouldn't be on the bleeding road. That's it. But I do think it might well be conceived or perceived as synonymous with how this government want to increasingly control almost every... Think of ID cards. I think they want control, don't they?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying, but I think we're also getting listed up with the fog here because... when Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister and turns his country round and makes it the place we all want it to be, and then he says, well, actually, I don't think it's right that we all have 2 drinks and it's not safe, I think we'd all stand behind him and go, actually, Nigel, that's a sensible policy. But because of the way this government behaves, nobody believes anything they do with the right conviction. And that's why you're having this debate this morning.
As a former member of the Armed Forces, quick question to you. Great to have you on, my friend, and respect in everything you've done. Yesterday, the coalition of the the coalition of the willing, Macron and Starmer only, announced that they would support Ukraine with boots on the ground if and when, at all, a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine happens. Do you support that?
Absolutely not. I was unfortunate enough to be involved in the Iraq 2003 invasion, and I was told by the captain of my warship when Hans Blix was doing all the stuff around, we're looking for weapons of mass destruction, we were told on board that ship, do not listen to the propaganda on the telly, we will be invading Iraq. And it was just a screenwash to get in there, remove the regime and capture the oil. Whether that's good or bad, that's another debate, but that's how I see it.
Really great to have you on, mate. And you'll know if you listen how much vets are in my thoughts all the goddamn time. It infuriates me. I live in a town where there's a guy, 15 years in the armed forces, he's on the streets because illegal migrants are now in the hotel that he lived in. Thank you so much indeed for your call. Nick in Chichester, 8:45. And we're going to talk energy and sport ahead of the news at 9. Don't go anywhere. Coming back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, yes, she is. Julia's here from 10 o'clock, Ian Collins from 1, and I believe it's Peter Cardwell now. Somebody said you should be locked up for the way you've... I've watched this little thing about Peter Cardwell now. Somebody said to me about, do you know that you can tell when a Northern Irish person is Northern Irish just by their sneeze? You ready for it's true, right? Achie! That's what when Peter Cardwell has a cough. Achie! 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Let's talk energy. Let's get even more depressed. Workplace banter out the window. Oh, you bunch of skinheads through there. Oh, don't get offended if I get it. All right, Damien. All right, G-Spot. Can never find him. That's what we're calling him from now on. Oh, he'll be suing me. I don't care. We say a very good morning to a lovely lady, Catherine Porter, independent energy analyst. How are you, Catherine?
Good morning. Depressed as well, unfortunately.
What are you depressed about? The fact that Christmas is over? The fact that we've got...
Oh, I wish. No, so I have a big report being launched on Monday talking about whether the grid will cope with the electrification targets that we have. And I essentially conclude that not only will we not cope with any extra demand from electrification or AI, we're going to have to ration electricity if we don't do something about retirement risk in the gas generation fleet. And the prospects that we could lose key offshore gas infrastructure because of the way that the North Sea is being pushed into accelerated decline. This would obviously be extremely expensive and put people's lives at risk. I mean, 11 people died in the Iberian blackout back in April.
I have to tell you,
it's very concerning that people aren't looking at this.
I'm so delighted to have you on, and anybody who quite rightly, in my opinion, makes the energy thing what it is. I don't understand the hypocrisy. I don't understand the economics. I'll say it to you as I've said to many people, led by Miliband, right? This government that is skint and overseeing a skint country that's paying £120 billion a year in interest on its debts is trying to spend billions by stealing land from farmers, building wind farms that don't create enough electricity, so you have to take it from somewhere else that costs more money and sends bills through the roof. And then even better than that, if it blows too much, it costs even more to either get rid of it or switch those machines off. It's ludicrous, it's stupid, and as somebody once said to me, let's just say this ridiculous target is reached, and by the way, the rest of the world that gets far more into the CO emissions than we do, they don't give a damn. What happens if we reach this net zero target? What happens next? Do we get some sort of bleeding medal? Is there a new target? I think it is utterly ludicrous, and we're looking there at the sea. We've got liquid gold under our shores. Why don't we drill it and make money and pay our debts off?
Yeah, exactly. And what's even worse is that we're just switching to imports, and imports have higher carbon intensity anyway. So if you're really motivated by dealing with the so-called climate emergency, then you shouldn't be doing what we're doing. We're making energy expensive, so that's offshoring our manufacturing. We're losing 1,000 jobs a month in the North Sea, and we're not reducing our consumption of oil and gas. So the whole thing is just ridiculous.
Yesterday, Leanne
on the money. So is that because they're accelerating the depreciation, Treasury is going to turn into a net tax payer, because under the decommissioning regime, basically you collect extra taxes from the producers when they're producing, and then you give them some of that money back when they start decommissioning, and that's going to be a couple of £1 billion a year that the Treasury is going to have to start paying back to these companies years earlier than would have been the case otherwise. So it's going to cost us an awful lot of money.
Couldn't agree more. Yesterday, Lee Anderson, who's a hero to me, working class man, Reform MP, stood up and took on Millipede. Have a watch, have a listen.
November last year, the Energy Secretary and his entourage attended COP30 in Brazil. This was an event where a rainforest was chopped down so the Energy Secretary could talk about saving rainforests. Does he understand the hypocrisy of it all?
So I don't understand the honourable gentleman, if I'm honest. I mean, look, basically, the truth is he would give up on young people. He would sell them down the river. He'd sell down the river today's generations, future generations, and all the generations to come. I don't think that's a very good platform to stand on.
I'm not quite sure what selling the younger generation down the river's got to do with cutting down the bloody rainforest, Catherine, because Lee Anderson's right, isn't he?
Well, he is. And, you know, the ridiculous thing here is that you've got people like Ed Miliband going on and on about how we're going to have all this climate leadership. To be a leader, you need people willing to follow, and absolutely nobody is following us. They're just laughing at us.
Yeah.
We're destroying our economy, we're destroying our opportunities, and we're not actually moving the dial on climate either.
No.
So the whole thing is just really damaging and pointless.
Do you know what I get really angry about when they all go, everybody's concerned about the climate? Yes, if you ask people, they'll say, of course I'm concerned about the climate, but it's a bit like, you won't have been involved, but the drink driving thing earlier. Yes, important, but there are massive issues in the United Kingdom right now, socially, economically, politically, financially, and we are in no position, I don't think, to bankrupt ourselves on the altar of an ideology that doesn't, frankly, make any sense at all, does it? Doesn't.
No, and the stuff that we're doing doesn't actually reduce emissions. We're making emissions worse by the policies that we're engaging in. But also, I think there's a big thing here where the public needs to be re-educated a little bit about oil and gas, because we hear a lot about it in terms of energy, but then you get these people saying, well, let's just stop oil. Well, almost everything in a hospital, apart from people, is made out of oil. Almost every medication that we use in the NHS is made out of oil. Most of the medical equipment is made out of oil. Most of what you need in technology relies on oil. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. We'd have no social media without oil. Agriculture would collapse without natural gas. Sri Lanka tried to ban synthetic fertiliser a couple of years ago. And they went from being a net exporter of rice to having food riots because they couldn't feed their own people and had to have an IMF bailout. It was one of the fastest economic collapses in history. This stuff is absolutely fundamental to our lives.
Catherine, I could talk to you all day. To find somebody who hates net zero as much as me is a pleasure. Thank you so much indeed. We'll have you on again very soon. 5 to 9, Talk Breakfast, back in 3.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, welcome back. We have a feature which is with The Sun, which is sport. It's called 90 Seconds, and it will be 90 seconds today because we're almost out of time. Push the button, Big M.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Justin Allen, Chief EFL writer of The Sun, a very good morning. If you mention West Ham, you can do one. We're rubbish. I want to sack the entire team, the board, the ground. I want to get into the Championship, and I'm going to start supporting Newcastle. How are you, Just?
Well, I'm all right, and I'm happy to only speak for 90 seconds because I'm a West Ham fan like yourself. And, yeah, absolutely gutted last night. Yet another debacle, I'm afraid.
We're rubbish, man. Let's talk Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. After Amarin waltzes off with a spring in his step and his hat at a jaunty angle and 14 million quid in his pocket, Solskjaer could come back as interim. Unfinished business for Ole?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a legend at Man United. It's the old boys network yet again. When things aren't going well, they sort of break the glass and go for a legend. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I mean, he had a decent record there, didn't he? 54% win percentage, got them to the Europa League Cup final and finished second. So, you know, when you look at recent years, that's actually quite an achievement, isn't it?
Long term, very quickly, who do you think will be the next, Manchester United manager?
I think Glasner at Crystal Palace. I really do. I think that's an interesting situation. He's not committing to a new contract. And what he's done at Crystal Palace, he's worked wonders.
I'm going to tell you who I think it will be, Justin. We'll have a little side bet. I think the summer's very interesting. I think it'll be Thomas Tuchel, without any shadow of a doubt. When he's gone to the World Cup with England, I think he's a proper manager, and I think they probably know it up there, but I could be wrong. Listen, we're not going to keep the faith. We're going to abandon West Ham. They're a baggage. Thank you very much indeed, the lovely Justin Allen, Chief EFL writer in The Sun. It's all in The Sun Sport today. It's almost 9 o'clock. In the next hour, we'll speak to Kieran Mullen, Shadow Justice Secretary, Anne Whittaker. We'll take your calls and your texts. Everything is here. Matt in Grimsby, you could be right. News at 9 is next. Stand by.
Of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning all around the clock to late at night, to the point where on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning. Just gone 9 o'clock. You are with Talk, of course, the home of common sense. It's the home of alarm clock Brits, and it's the home of the truth, to be perfectly honest. Your response to the day's news, always important. Keep those calls coming, those voice notes in the next hour. 0344 499 1000. Your text messages 87222. You're waking up to lots of pieces of news. The government, well, is it true? One for the road. They want to blitz drink driving, and we all agree in terms of, the horror that is drink driving. It's going to be a pint and you'll be over the limit. But we're also talking this morning about whether that's a stab and a strike against your abilities to make your own decisions, more of the nanny state. What's it going to do for the pub industry? We learned overnight that Britain and France have decided to put British and French troops boots on the ground if there's a peace pact. That's caused great debate. And we're also talking on a light-hearted note about workplace banter. My next guest, though, the Shadow Justice Minister, the Conservative of Bexhill and Battle. And I'm going to ask Kieran Mullen a very straight question. Morning, Mr. Mullen. How are you?
Morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I nearly died in your constituency.
All right, tell me.
You're not interested. No, it was 40 years ago.
That.
I left London on a Victoria coach station with a young lady to have a nice weekend in her grandmother's house in Battle, and my appendix burst, and they had to take me off in Battle. And I spent 10 weeks in hospital. That's all I know about where you represent. But a very good morning and welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm very good.
There's loads in the news, specifically a couple of things I know you want to talk about, which is the Conservatives are saying to Labour MP, stand up to Calamity Lammy and do something about this ridiculous idea that we should indeed, end jury trials. I've always believed in jury trials. Your peers, not some judge who might have a political agenda. I think that's absolutely the right thing to say, Kieran.
Yeah, and we've had jury trials in this country for more than 800 years. And actually, what's ridiculous is actually the Prime Minister himself and Calamity Lammy, as you describe him, and the Justice Minister, all of them in the past have strongly defended the importance of jury trials. So it's extraordinary to have those very same people then put forward proposals to massively reduce our access to them on some very serious cases, potentially up to 3 years in prison without a jury trial. I'm pleased to say that already Labour MPs who are doing the right thing and calling out these proposals, and we want more Labour MPs to make clear to the government that they're not going to back this and join us in opposing them today.
Your leader, we had your boss, Robert Jenrick, here yesterday, but the big boss, Kemi Badenoch, today in the news. And this is this story that will not go away about the West Midlands Police and the Maccabi Tel Aviv-Aston Villa football game. Badenoch has called for the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police to be sacked. They banned, basically, Israeli fans from the Europa League game. They said that Maccabi Tel Aviv's fans, there was a history of violence. She said that Craig Guilford's position is untenable after fresh evidence emerged over the force's decision. Documents published on Tuesday revealed that West Midlands Police were warned beforehand that locals in the predominantly Muslim community were planning to arm themselves as Maccabi fans attended. My question to you, sir, is surely any government should be making sure that whatever religion, colour or creed you're from, you shouldn't be able to make threats like that, rather than banning a football team in what many people saw as an anti-Semitic move.
I watched some of the evidence yesterday from the Chief Constable, and it really was extraordinary, particularly the point, as you've made, that we only find out now that the MPs who have been looking into this for many, many weeks only found out yesterday that the police's first concern was the threat from local community groups to the fans. And actually this ridiculous explanation from the Chief Constable that they hadn't said that before because no one had directly asked him that question. Clearly, if there is an inquiry ongoing into such an important matter, and you've got intelligence and information that was key to your decision making, you should be offering that up. And it really isn't tenable for him to come to Parliament, as he did previously, not tell MPs that key bit of information, and then come here yesterday only having to talk about it because a journalist and the media had exposed that information. It's totally unacceptable. It's not what MPs expect from an extremely senior police officer in this country.
Kieran, just a couple of things very quickly. Your take on the two big news stories. Front page of the Sun, one for the road, Labour's breath test blitz. We all agree this is apparently an idea. It's only ever an idea, isn't it, with the Labour Party? But the limit on drink driving should be a pint, and also maybe some chips will be put in certain cars as serial offenders to stop people driving. You can nick somebody else's car. I, like everybody else listening, we don't want drink driving. It's abhorrent. But is this more, I'd love the Tories' view, is this more about the nanny state from a government that wants to bring in ID cards and seemingly wants to watch and discover everything? And what about the pub industry being decimated on a daily basis by Labour?
Well, we know Labour have made not just the pub industry, the entire hospitality industry's life extremely difficult. We're seeing record numbers of pubs and other hospitality venues closing, not least because of the jobs tax that Labour brought in and the increase they're going to put onto hospitality businesses' business rates. So much damage is being done. Of course, as you said, if there are serious proposals that may well help reduce the loss of life on our roads, we should look at them carefully, and we will do. But the first thing I'd say about this are, firstly, Scotland already has this lower limit, and I'm not clear that there is really clear evidence that it makes a huge difference. But more importantly, as I said, I'm yet to be convinced. But police need to be out there enforcing whatever the limit is. If you don't have the police officers enforcing it, the limit is almost meaningless. And actually, Labour pledged 4,500 more police officers during the election campaign. What we've seen is a loss of more than 1,000 police officers. If you don't have the police officers out there enforcing any regulations, if you make them tighter, what actually happens is the law-abiding majority, who are already following the rules as they stand, then have to follow an even tighter set of rules, and those people that were breaking the rules before will carry on breaking the rules.
But it's also, Kieran,
so
it's also
making
about...
sure if you...
I agree, but it's also about priorities. You said there, policemen and women on the streets making sure this happens. What about policemen and women on the bloody streets doing something about shoplifting? I keep seeing videos where people can't do absolutely anything. There's no police anywhere. People just go in and take that. The only other story, very quickly, I know you're a busy man. Overnight, the Coalition of the Willing, what a ridiculous name, Starmer and Macron, making a vow that deploying troops, so boots on the ground in Ukraine in the event of a peaceful sort of ceasefire agreement between Putin and Ukraine would happen. I have always been a supporter of our support for Ukraine because it can go further into a European war. But there is war fatigue in this country, and there is a silent majority of people saying, hold on a minute, we are in real trouble. We're going to send troops to Ukraine, and yet we can't police our own damn borders. We've got a military that is less in number, you would know this, than the number of illegal migrants who have come into this country since Keir Starmer pranced into Downing Street. What's the Tories' view on this decision?
Well, as you said, Ukraine security is important to us because if Russia are not stopped in Ukraine, they could go further. So I think we've always been a strong supporter of Ukraine having a peaceful settlement, getting back its territory. But of course, we would have to look very, very carefully at any proposal to put British troops in harm's way. I don't think you'd expect me to say yes or no to that when we don't even know the details of the proposals. And it isn't just about what we're committed to, it's about what other people will do, particularly the Americans. You know, they're not really clearly signed up to enforcing that agreement in some way. I don't think it would be a credible threat. And the more important thing is, of course, is that Putin has to believe that that threat is credible from our point of view, and that requires two things. It requires a strong military with investment in our armed forces. We've seen yet another delay to the planned equipment and investment plan that the government pledged to publish in autumn. They still haven't set out how they're going to get defence spending up to 3% of GDP, which is really important. And the percentage of GDP, of course, is dependent on how big your economy is. And Labour are trashing our economy and making economic growth worse wherever you look, and all sorts of different metrics, things like unemployment, inflation. All these issues are getting are not going the direction Labour pledged they were going to go when they took office. So I think you need a strong economy to fund our armed forces and a clear and credible plan with our allies for it to make any difference. And so we'll have to look at very carefully about any commitments that they make. But we shouldn't, outright say no to these things, because actually it is important that Ukraine is able to secure its borders for all of our interests.
Good man. It's great to have you on, by the way. Say hello to Bexhill and Battle. Kieran Mullen, Shadow Junior Justice Minister. Thank you so much indeed for joining Talk Breakfast. What is it? 12 minutes past 9. There are the situations that we're talking about, the drink driving and the troops on the ground. We're also talking about workplace banter. You will no longer be able to walk into a pub if the Labour Party continue with this plan and tell this joke that Andy from Crawley has sent. It's fantastic. A man walks into a pub with a roll of tarmac under his arm. 2 pints, please. 1 for me and 1 for the road. Brilliant. Morning, Wayne.
Jezza, Britain was built on an I can do attitude. However, we seem to be stuck in this I can't, and it's very much facilitated by the government. I can't raise a flag because I'll be called far right and racist. I can't tell jokes at work because someone might find it offensive, and then suddenly I'm hit with a fine or sacked from my job. I can't have fun. I can't watch comedy that we used to watch 10 years ago because it's inappropriate and offensive, and again, someone might take offence. I can't even stand out at an illegal immigrant hotel and say this is not right and I don't want this in my community, because the law has already said they have more rights than I do to be in this country. I can't even sit there and have a local elections because twice the government have turned around and said I'm not entitled to this. It is just an insane world that we live in. I'm an I can do Brit. I'm not an I can't Brit. So I want to bring back the I can do attitude, Jezza, because at the moment we're lost.
Couldn't agree anymore. Wayne, thank you. 13 minutes past 9. I'm so delighted to have my next guest. There's a slight mix of fear and complete awe. Ladies and gentlemen, former Home Office Minister legend Anne Widdecombe. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I don't know where to start with you, but I'm going to start very wrongly, to be honest. Workplace banter seems to have died. This is extraordinary, Anne. You doesn't need to have any detail on this story. There's a story of a Brazilian lady, aged 30, who was so offended by somebody impersonating her accent that she, suffering from a complete breakdown and anxiety, took her employers to a tribunal, won £35,000, and is now working in Hooters. I'll let you make of that what you want. Have we gone soft? Is Wayne not right? I can do Brits. We can't complain. We can't laugh. There's no humour anymore. What the hell's happened, Anne Widdecombe?
What's happened is there's a complete loss of a sense of proportionality. Now, you know, you might be offended if somebody mocks your accent. You don't have to get £35,000, out of a tribunal for it. I mean, what you should be able to do is to say, I don't really find that funny. And if he persists, then you complain to your superior. But this isn't a matter for the courts. No wonder we've got such a clog up in our courts. If nonsense like this is what is being taken to tribunals. But also we have completely lost our sense of humour, of self-mockery. The whole thing has gone completely bonkers. Now, you know, I think things can be done about this. We can put a strict limit on compensation that is offered. We can insist on seeing whether something was attempted to be resolved in the workplace. And as for somebody being so offended that they can't come to work and they've got to sit at home with a handkerchief having a nervous breakdown, which is a story now that you're hearing the whole time. It's not just this case. You know, it's about time we said to people, take a look at what's happening in Ukraine, take a look at what's happening in Gaza, and thank your lucky stars that you live in Britain.
Couldn't agree more. Let's talk to you, my darling, about the two big news stories of the day. It's over every newspaper, this drink drive story dominating the news. Labour planning to limit the amount one can drink and drive to a pint, planning to put this chip in cars of serial drink driving offenders to stop them, to neutralise their ability. Quite interesting pictures, as somebody pointed out on screen right now. Rachel Reeves, is it? Yes, Angela Rayner and the guy that lied about being a solicitor. In fact, 3 Labour MPs in a pub, Anne Widdecombe, which is quite shocking because they get thrown out of most. None of us, I'm sure, would ever want anything other than drink driving to stop. But the response from my audience this morning has been, this is yet more nanny state interference from a government who won't let us even blow our nose increasingly. And more than that, or alongside that, another kick in the teeth for the pub industries, rural pubs, who are the lifeblood of many communities, are being destroyed.
This is one where I've got a very, very strong sense of déjà vu. And I doubt if many of your viewers will have that, but I can actually remember the introduction of the first drink drive limits in Britain under Barbara Castle, believe it or not, at the end of the 60s. I was a young student at the time. And a huge portion of that debate was about the country pub trade, that it was going to kill it because people wouldn't be able to drive out to have a drink in the pub. Well, it didn't kill it at all. And we have seen a huge decrease. When you consider there were far fewer cars on the road then, there were 8,000 fatalities a year. You know, now we're down to well under 2,000. So, you know, it had an impact. Now, I think the question is, again, the word I'm always using, proportionality. You know, have we got the right limit at the moment, or should we come down a bit further? Well, the only way I think you can resolve that is by studying statistics in countries, and Scotland's obviously one of them, where there is a lower limit, and see whether or not it has had an impact. That, I think, is the kernel of this, because if it does have an impact, then as far as I'm concerned, it's a good thing.
They say in Scotland, who's had it, it hasn't changed at all. And I'm, by the way, I'm not abhorrent drink driving, but I do. I'd love your take. Is this not more nanny state socialist claptrap, though?
I don't think so.
You don't?
I don't think. Well, no, I don't think that drink driving laws are a sign of a nanny state. I think, again, the question, as I've said, is proportionality. How far do you go? What is the evidence? I am prepared to decide this on evidence.
What do you say, though, to the people?
Well, hang on, Jeremy. When this gets before the House of Commons, evidence is what should determine it.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you say, though, about the people who talk about priorities? And whilst they acknowledge that drink driving is massively important, they look at what's happening in this country, Anne, and you would know this better than anybody. the silent majority, as I keep calling them, and they're saying, yes, we don't want people to drink drive, but we're quite likely to police our borders, put men and women in the police on the streets, sort out our education, our National Health Service, have an army that's more in number than illegal migrants who have landed in this country in the last 18 months. And I think that is something that has never... I've never felt that as strongly as I have in the last few months and couple of years. I think people are waking up to the madness that we have in so many areas. Would you agree with that?
It's not so much madness, it's just sheer ineffectiveness. You know, we haven't got the police, we haven't got the troops. We'd be hard put to stand to. We haven't got a rigorous education in this country. We haven't got an NHS which always works, does sometimes, but not always. And yes, all those things need tackling. But the fact that one thing is wrong doesn't mean that you ignore another which is wrong. So, as I say, evidence, please, and proportionality.
Just to sum up, you've seen it all. I know you have. Do you despair right now? You look at the man on screen. He held his first cabinet meeting and said things are going to get better. Yes, she's shaking her head. Yesterday, he lied about energy bills. We face the prospect, if he goes, of Ed Miliband, who I think is the most frightening person ever to enter politics. Many people, in their thousands, hundreds of thousands, are saying, you know, we've got this for another 3.5 years. It's pretty depressing, Anne Widdecombe, isn't it?
It's very depressing because I'm afraid the reality is we can't get them out. There is no way of getting a government out except by its losing a vote of confidence. It's not going to do that because turkeys don't vote for Christmas. We've got them for the next 3 years. We may well lose Keir Starmer, and then we may say that we should have been more careful about what we wished for.
In your experience, final question, is it worse than you imagined or just as you saw it happening?
It's much worse.
Is it? It's worse than you imagined?
Yes. Oh, it's much worse. I mean, I imagined it would be bad. I did not imagine that it would be bad to this extent. I mean, he's got almost everything wrong, Ukraine aside. He's got almost everything else wrong. And just look at him. I mean, he looks like a rabbit in headlights the whole time. He doesn't look like a man in command of the situation. This guy's running the country.
There's nothing statesmanlike about him, and it's you know that. I'm totally in awe every time you come on. Please do come again soon. We're really delighted to have you. Anne Widdecombe, former Home Office Minister with Reform, now 921. Tom Tugendhat, former Security Minister. He'll be on next talking about boots on the ground and everything else in the news. If you want to be on between now and 10 o'clock. And Julia, 0344 419 1000. Get those voice notes in. You can also call direct or you can text 87222. Morning, Shawnee.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. As an HGV driver who drives every day, I don't think we should be worried about the drunk drivers. I think we should be worried about the ones who are sober, because the vast majority of car drivers can't drive because they're idiots. Great show, mate.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me every weekend from 6 a.m. for the stories that matter to you. We talk politics, we talk news, we talk entertainment, we talk about everything that affects your life. There's only one place to start your weekend, the home of common sense. Talk Breakfast on Talk. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Friday, Saturday and Sunday here on the home of common sense.
The UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Welcome back. 9:25. Honestly, that was the quickest run to the loo ever. I'm almost out of breath. The amazing Julia Hartley-Brewer is here from 10 o'clock. Ian Collins from 1 o'clock, and Peter Cardwell, he wanted me to do that. He texted me. On drive time from 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's how you line up on the home of common sense. Morning, Johnny. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Just a quick one on that little segment you played of Lee Anderson and Ed Miliband. I think for once, Ed Miliband has actually told the truth. For once in his life. I don't think he does understand the hypocrisy of it, to be honest. The blatant, obvious hypocrisy of what he's talking about and what he's doing. I don't think he does understand it. And for me, that's why he's so dangerous to this country and so detrimental to it. Cheers, Jez. Bye.
Couldn't agree more. Loads to talk about with our next guest. An ex-security minister and top man. Last time I saw him was at the late, great James Whale's funeral. Tom Tugendhat, good morning.
Well, James was a really good friend of ours. It was a real privilege to be asked to read at his funeral, actually. He was a great friend. I miss him. I'm sure you do too.
He was a legend. Before you continue, I'm afraid you'll probably be visited by the police during this interview. Is that a Union Jack you've got up, Tugendhat? What's going on?
It is. Funnily enough, I fought for this flag. I wore the uniform of the then Queen, and I'm quite proud of it. So I'm very happy to have it.
Good for you. And how better to start with an ex-security minister and ex-soldier with this news that the condition... No, I'm going to call them the coalition of the willing, nearly said willies yesterday, headed by Britain and France, formally committing to deploying troops in Ukraine as part of or as a result of a potential peace deal. Trump agreed to defend Kiev in the event of a future attack by Russia, whether we believe that or not. I'd just like your take, Tom, on how you believe that will pan out, whether you think it's the right decision or not. British troops, boots on the ground. Thoughts?
So let me just split this out, because I think that it depends what you're asking them to do. If you think they're going to guard some sort of 400 or 500 mile border, well, we've got 70,000 soldiers, 20,000 of them are already doing existing operations. That leaves 50. Of those 50, probably about 10 or 15 are training, so that leaves 35. Now, if you want one man in country, or one person in country, one soldier in country, then you need to have one training and one resting. So that's 3. So you're talking about fewer than 10,000 people, probably, that you could deploy on a sustained basis. Probably only about 7,000. Right, you've got hundreds of miles to guard. What on earth are you talking about? The maths don't just add up. It just doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I know we do it with France, but France hasn't got a much bigger army. It's roughly the same size, a little bit bigger, but not much. So I just don't understand. And the problem I have with this is, if I look at what's happened to Ukraine over the last 4 years, I see a combination of promises that have not borne fruit, leading to actions taken by Ukrainians that have led to, sadly, many, many young people being killed. Now, I'm a believer that we should have given Ukraine everything it needed from the off. That's not what President Biden did. That's not what many European partners did. It is, to be fair to Boris and to Ben Wallace, exactly what our government did. But we didn't do it fast enough as allies. So if we're going to make empty promises, all we're doing is encouraging people to make decisions that are not reasonable. This is a meeting and an announcement pretending to be action. It's not action, just words.
And also, you know, from talking to me in the past, I'm a massive supporter of the armed forces, and I believe that this initially is the wrong word, but was Europe's war if it wasn't ended. However, the issue for me here is, and people have to acknowledge this, I'm not saying there's war fatigue, Tom, but very much like this Labour Party idea this morning about drink driving, there is genuine, not fear, but just lots of people in this country are saying, there's so many things happening domestically. There he is in Paris pontificating. Putin probably won't want a declaration of peace anyway. We are, for example, seemingly prepared to put troops on the ground in Ukraine, but we can't police or secure or defend our own borders. There are more illegal migrants coming to this country in the 18 months Keir Starmer's been in Downing Street than there are in our armed forces. And I think people are beginning to question that sort of thing. I really do.
Well, Jeremy, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, by the way, I think we should be able to do both. I don't think this should be an either-or. I mean, you know, we're a G7 country. We're one of the richest countries in the world.
Are we still? Are we still?
We still are. I mean, I know it doesn't feel like it all the time. I'm not going to lie to you, but we really are. I mean, we're still a top 10 economy, top 6 or 7, depending on who you ask and what you're counting. But we're still a very rich country. We're still a very powerful country. We've got some of the best ideas, best minds, best universities, best companies. You know, we really do. We really do produce some amazing stuff. But what we've seen over the last year and a half is Labour taxing us into oblivion, closing down imagination, closing down ideas. I mean, we see it most obviously in the high street because that's the bit that we all walk past. But the truth is, most small companies in the United Kingdom have been punished by startups. So we talk about the farm tax because everybody knows what a farm is. But actually, just look at the number of small businesses in the United Kingdom that have closed. Those are the businesses that are coming up with ideas, developing engineering solutions or tech solutions or whatever that would change the world. And that's not happening. So we should be able to do both. But my point is, we should be able to do both honestly. And this just feels dishonest to me. And it feels dishonest because, you know, forgive me, I ended my career as the military assistant to the Chief of the Defence Staff. It's a very long title, but basically what it means is you sit next to the head of the professional head of the armed forces and help him run the Army, Navy and Air Force. So I spent a lot of time looking at what we call force deployments, and that's where you're calculating how many people you need to do this, how many ships you need to do that, how many aircraft you need to do that. And it's a lot of it's mathematics, got to be honest. A lot of it's about fuel movements, about planes, about sustainment, all those sort of things. I just don't see how the maths adds up. I just don't get it. Now, if you want to send in 100 people to train the Ukrainians in Kiev, fine, but that's not game-changing, in which case you promise something that sounds more than it is.
But is that not pretty symptomatic of this government? I made the point earlier. I mean, the drink driving thing on the front of the newspapers. I know it's not your sphere, but all MPs would have a view on this. Drink driving limit could be a pub, a pint. None of us, right? Machines in cars that stop serial offenders. I get all that. None of us want drink driving. It's abhorrent. But are we getting to a point, right, where on the one hand, our government is telling us how to behave and not giving us the right to make our own decision? I hate that. I'm quite capable of knowing that I shouldn't drink and drive. But let's talk about priorities. You can pontificate about troops on the ground in Ukraine. You can pontificate about we support this, we support... What about dealing with the fact that 70,000 illegal migrants have come to this country? What about dealing with the fact that the pub industry, the rural pub industry, is utterly decimated by what they've done to small businesses? And this will be further a kick in the teeth. Of course, the conspiracists will say they don't want us to meet, they don't want us to talk. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this sort of Labour thing of this government is to make announcements that I'm sure a focus group have said might resonate right now, and it doesn't seem to come from within, and it doesn't seem to be proactive. It's reactive, Tom. I've always felt it about these people. There's no gut belief, DNA or instinct.
There's nothing there. I'm afraid, Jeremy, beneath the surface, there's more surface. There's just nothing there. And so what you're getting is exactly right. You're getting these focus group reactions where people say, oh, well, people do want more money spent on the NHS and they're prepared to pay a penny more tax, so here's the penny more tax. And it's like, hang on a minute, you're closing down my local pub. Now, if something is going to keep me healthy, it's meeting friends, it's staying in touch with people and all the rest of it. Actually, the pub really matters. It's part of the social community. It's part of the web of society that keeps us as a country. And, you know, whether you go to the Queen's Arms, greatest pub in the entire known universe, which I won't tell you where it is, but it's just near Edenbridge. Or you go to whatever you call your local, and wherever you go, it keeps you in touch. I have to say, for me, it keeps me in touch with what people think in the community. It's really important. And by the way, OK, fine, I'm a politician, so that bit matters to me, but it matters to all of us that we feel we have a place in our community.
Let's talk very quickly about Trump. I don't want to go back to Venezuela. Maduro's in custody, like it or lump it. Let's talk about Greenland. I'm fascinated, and probably I have a different view to other people. He said, I want Greenland within 3 years. That's what I want. I want Greenland within 3 years. That's what's going to happen, right? Here's the question. People are going, this is outrageous, this is going to break up NATO, everybody's upset, blah, 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 blah. My point is that when he came to power and he said, I pay more into NATO than anybody else, right? And everybody said, what's he going to do? everybody folded. Is this just not pontificating for him to say, this is an important strategic part, I'm paying the most money, pull your fingers out, I've a right to jump around, because he'll end up getting what he wants, but perhaps not as much as he wants. Isn't this the businessman in Trump?
Look, I hope you're right, Jeremy. And the reason I say that is because do you remember people used to say you have to take him seriously, but not literally?
Yes.
Well, I'm beginning to take him a lot more literally than I used to. I'll tell you that. I mean, things he says he tends to do. And actually, if you want to know why he's popular, it's because you have a bunch of politicians over here who think the meeting is the output, and you have a politician over there who closes the border and deals with Venezuela. Now, I don't think a meeting is an output. I think an action is an output. And that's what even when I don't like the action, at least that's what you're getting. So when I look at what's going on in Greenland, I'll tell you what I think about. And forgive me for being boring for a second, Jeremy. But during the Second World War in 1941, the Kingdom of Denmark signed a deal with the United States that they then sort of repeated, if you like, when peace came in 49. And the deal basically says you can put as many troops as you like, as many weapons as you like, anywhere you like, on Greenland, and you can guard it and defend it because we recognize the security threat for you. Now, up until about 20, 30 years ago, the Americans had 300,000 troops on Greenland. They had nuclear bombing aircraft, so they were equipped to bomb the Soviet Union. And in fact, they even lost a nuclear bomb in the Greenland ice cap somewhere. I don't think it was ever found, but I may be wrong about that. And in the last 10, 15 years, the Americans have wound that down to a couple of hundred troops here, a couple of hundred troops there, and I think they're down to about 1,000 troops. It may be a little bit more than that, but it's that sort of level. Now, if the Americans want to ramp that back up to 300,000, go for it. Mate, you've got the treaties, you've got the laws, you can do what you like. And if you want to buy the rare earths, well, sign a deal with the government of Greenland and do it. Go for it. You don't need to own it. I mean, the absolute genius of the system that we built up over 80 years, the complete brilliance of it, is if you want to get Canadian grain or British, engineering or German coal, you buy it. That's how it works.
Yeah.
You don't need to invade a country. The absolute genius of our system is that kind of sovereignty doesn't matter in the same way. We're not like the Soviets who controlled everything. We're not like the fascists who control everything. We're not a nationalistic state. What we are is a bunch of free market people, and if you want to buy more copper than I do, you'll pay more for it. Okay, go for it. Take it.
Really, really interesting. And finally, you're a busy man. We're running out of time, but I know you were across the Iranian protest last week. Many people saying, what is next for Donald Trump? Is it Colombia? Is it Cuba? Is the Iran regime about to be toppled? Is he that mad? Can you believe from inside or outside that could happen?
Well, let me just bring you back to Venezuela. And I know this is going to sound like a detour, but it's actually not. When he said he was going to do something about Iran and then took out Maduro, that's when I thought he was serious. Because what does Maduro do? He doesn't just sell drugs into the Americas. No. What he actually does is he runs the dirty money for Iran, for Russia. He makes weapons parts in his factories. He makes drone engines in his factories, ships them back to Iran. Iran then either uses them against Israel or against other countries in the Middle East, gives them to the Houthis, or sells them to Russia, who then use them against the Ukrainians. So when he knocked out Maduro, he wasn't just knocking out Venezuela, he was also knocking out the weapons supplies and quite a lot of money movements that Hezbollah, funded by Iran, has been getting through Venezuela. So a lot of the drugs that are coming into the UK, what happens is a group of Hezbollah guys in Venezuela get the drugs paid for by Iran. They take them over the Atlantic to somewhere like Liberia or Sierra Leone. By the way, those countries are not complicit. They're trying to do their best, but they don't have much hope. And the drugs then go north through Africa into Europe, and that's the drugs route. So what Trump has done is actually deal a very hard blow to Iran. Now, when I see these protests, I tell you what, this regime is over. It is dead. It is a completely dead parrot. The question is, how long does it last? It could last weeks, it could last years, but this regime is not coming back.
Love having you on, Tom. Family good? Everything okay?
Everybody's well, and I hope you had a really good New Year, Jeremy.
We did, thank you, and delighted you came on, and we'll get you on very soon. Thank you so much indeed. Tom Tugendhat, Tory MP and former Securities Minister. Jamie's still going on about drink driving.
Hello, Jeremy. Jamie from Nottingham. What it is, the reason why this is coming about is because the Scottish Government, ages ago, lowered the drink drive limit in order to differentiate itself from the rest of the UK, in particular England. And the reason why the Labour Party are now looking to lower the drink drive limit and have it on at the same level as Scotland is because they don't want there to be any difference in terms of regulations and laws between England and Scotland. The reason being is that the SNP have tried to create as much difference as they possibly can between England and Scotland, so they can turn around and say to the Scottish electorate, look, we're different from the rest of the UK, let's separate from them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is absolutely groundbreaking. You can get the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show podcast is on there as well. Just download the Talk app because it tells you. I downloaded it the other day. I don't even know how I did it, but I did it, and you can take us where you want. I don't know, on the run. You could be running with us, you could be driving with us. Obviously, you can only have one pint. You could take me to the crapper. I don't care, whatever you want. Now, pardon? What did you say? With the runs. Well done. Big Mark, whose hair was cut by the council. We've got a new name for Damien, by the way. It's workplace banter, if you're just tuning in. It's a sense of humour. He's called G-Spot from now on, because nobody can find him. Can I just say, pin back your lugholes. It's competition time, and this is specifically for you, my friends. Honestly, this is incredible for 2026. We are giving away a massive £26,000. Serious cash, tax-free, in your bank, 26 grand. It's our biggest giveaway yet. This is how you enter. I'm not bothered. I mean, I'll give you the phone line, but it's really simple. Text the word TALK to 83338. Text the word TALK to 83338. It'll cost you £2.50. It's like going to the bookies having I don't know what that would be, £2.50 to £26,000. I'll give you the number to call, but you're probably on the go and can't write it down. 0343 423 9761. Now, lines are closing. 9 on the 9th of January, 2 o'clock. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. We're going to ring somebody up and go, do you know what? Welcome to 2026. You've won all that cash. Terms and conditions at talkport.com. It's a network production, but this is the most important thing to say to you. Text the word TALK, 83338. Right now, you can win £26,000. Can we enter, or are we not allowed to? We're not allowed to enter, no. Big workplace banter, that'd be no good. 0344 419 1000 if you want to get on ahead of Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10 o'clock, sounding great, and Ian Collins from 1 o'clock. I just want to also just bring in all the people that have texted. Thank you. If I haven't got you, I'm sorry. Barry, no troops to Ukraine. The UK has contributed enough, in my opinion. Let Germany, Spain and Italy send theirs. Good morning to Ron. Good God, stop mixing drink driving with drunk driving. They're not the same, says Ian. Alan Wright, net zero. Imagine that Ed Miliband has completed his dream and everything in the UK is now green, including every vehicle on the roads. World War III breaks out, and on the first day, all our wind and solar are completely destroyed, blown out of the protected sea and land by the enemy. What the hell does Alan in Yorkshire, God's country, say do we do then? No idea. Matt in Grimsby. If we don't drill for oil right now, you can bet your bloody life the Americans will come and do it soon. Nice. Peter Cardwell's just texted me. I bet he's got... What's Peter Cardwell going to say? No, that's a personal thing. He shouldn't have said that. I was going to read that out. Nothing rude. He wanted to take me out for lunch, but he's lost his bank card. I'm joking. 0344 499 1000, 9:45. One of the big news stories as well is Wes Streeting stuck his head above the parapet yesterday and said that Labour must not silence gender-critical activists. This is a man who has, to this point, allowed a test on 200 young children for puberty blockers. Heather Binning is the founder of Women's Rights Network. Heather, a very good morning. Welcome to Talk. How are you?
Morning. Good morning. I'm well.
Lovely to have you on. What do you make? I mean, I'm sorry if I'm going to say the wrong thing. The puberty blockers test on 200 kids is, in my opinion, utterly abhorrent, disgusting, disgraceful and almost criminal. I don't agree with it at all. I'm not ever going to sit here and say people can't be what they be. But when I hear things like that and when I see the way any sort of debate against that or anything else goes, I think I don't know what's happening to the world that I've been in for 60 years, Heather.
I absolutely agree with you, Jeremy. And we do a lot of work in the streets and talking to ordinary people and about sex-based rights and the right for women to, have privacy and dignity in changing rooms and toilets, etc. And overwhelmingly, I mean, not one person that we have talked to agrees that it is right to carry out this kind of trial on children. Very interestingly, the general public are very aware of this. They're sometimes not aware of the other elements of this debate, and where we, get into play and talk to them about sex-based rights. But on this issue, they are very aware. So the headlines have been out there. It's covered on the news, on this programme, on many others. And they are very aware that this is going on. And I was very pleased to see the level of public awareness that there has been, but it is absolutely not a vote winner. And Wes Streeting said he's uncomfortable with this, as he should be.
Well, then ban it. Ban it. This is another, I'm not trying to ask you to be political, but another Labour politician that sits on the fence or worries about what a particular focus group might or might not say. I don't care where you come from or your sexuality. I don't give a toss, right? To experiment. The whole thing about kids, and I've got enough of them I should know, is they learn about their sexuality as they go through puberty. To block that, to go against physiology, whatever you want to call it, to me is criminal. And I don't use those words uncalmly. I think it is utterly outrageous. And Streeting opposed it, then allowed it, and now he's saying I've got slight concerns about it. He should have more than concerns. When I watch a government worried about upsetting, somebody if you use hurty words, what about upsetting 200 children's lives forever? Outrageous. Outrageous.
Isn't it? I mean, there are no other words for it. And interestingly, Labour, a lot of Labour MPs have done an about turn on this whole issue. And it brings to mind Anas Sarwar, who's the leader of Scottish Labour, who now says that he would not have supported the GRR, the Gender Recognition Reform Bill in Scotland, because he's learned so much. Now, politicians shouldn't be allowed to carry out these things and this to make these decisions. And this trial that is going ahead, they could change their mind. They could suddenly realise in a year or 2 years that, that wasn't a good thing to do.
Well, can I say this to you as a founder of a women's rights network? And I said this once on a show and somebody looked at me like I'd landed from Mars. I've got teenage girls, right? One went to school at, I think, 13 or 14 to this new school, and there were 33 new kids, and she came back. Christian knows this story, and within 6 months she said 11 of them were seeing a school psychiatrist, child psychiatrist, because they weren't sure about their sexuality. Now, I will probably be absolutely destroyed for what I'm about to say. That's rubbish. That's sheep-like B-O-W. You know what word I'm trying to use. I am absolutely with anybody who has that. I've done enough of that in my life and talked to enough people. But if you are talking about something as serious as your sexuality or gender, whatever it is, and you are being led because it's the latest thing, and I genuinely mean, and I think something like this trial merely encourages this And you said it. What if that happens and in 2 years and you don't know that at 8? And the worst thing, and sorry, I really am, because it just affects me as a father, is the kids they've picked from underprivileged backgrounds, some with social and mental needs, who maybe are not in a position from where they've come from or where they're going to make a balanced decision. And finally, what sort of parents allow this to happen to their kids?
Oh, Jeremy, it's the false promise of a sex change that is being made to children. And we know that it is not possible. A sex change is not possible. Sex is real and is not a choice. And we need to be helping children to get through these difficult years of puberty that allows them to develop and grow and help define themselves. This trial seems to be giving some children what they think they want and what adults are supposed to.
But this is my point, and you're the person. How does an 8-year-old know that it might at some point want a sex change? It cannot possibly know that that's what it wants. It hasn't developed, and so the challenge is, by this unbelievably dangerous scheme, are we not pushing people down a certain route?
Of course, we're saying that there is hope. This is a possible thing to do. So let's get you started. Dangerous. And it seems to be being measured on levels of happiness and well-being. Now, your 8-year-old, I'm sure if your 8-year-old wanted an iPad, please let me have an iPad, and you gave them an iPad, they would be much happier. And for maybe a year or 2 years, they would be much happier. But probably in about 10 years' time, they might have thought, oh, I wish I'd had a bicycle. You know, this is...
Honestly, I welcome, this is the one part when people say to me in this office, oh, you're old-fashioned. Yeah, I'm really happy to be. I don't believe we should play with kids psychologically or physically. I think kids should develop as children and learn about their sexuality. And if anybody wants to jump up and down, that's fine. I don't want to be playing science with children's development. I think it's so dangerous. And can I support your network and you know, Sex Matters and all these sorts of groups that are doing absolutely right. And you said it as well. I'll just nail the other one. You know, teenage daughters. I don't want them changing with a bloke in a dress. That you said that Anwar Sanwar, the leader, is now in Scotland saying it was wrong. Let's not forget, a male rapist. I never forget it. I remember doing drive time. A man who raped 2 women puts on a wig. Right, let's be perfectly honest, and a bit of lippy, goes to court and says, I'm a woman, and gets put in a female jail. That is so fundamentally dangerous to women.
Isn't it? And finally, we were being allowed to say these things. It's Wes Streeting said, you know, we shouldn't be silenced.
No. I remember, what was that thing's name from Scotland? Because it came out, honestly, it came out of court, and I've never forgotten it. Came out of court in a pair of pink leggings, and you could see that it was a man from a mile off. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry, I make no apology for that. That was an excuse to go to a cushy jail, but the people that made that decision, I would say, are putting women's rights in danger.
They are. And this whole thing, we're telling children that it's possible to do this. That this is something that might lie in their future. They can change sex. And at the same time, we've got the Supreme Court saying, no, you can't. Sex is biological and cannot be changed. And again, we have no faith in the Labour Party. They're sitting on the guidance following that Supreme Court judgment. They say they support the judgment, but the guidance is not coming out. And employers out there and service providers out there are lost. They are currently being given still incorrect information about the law. And that is absolutely absurd. So I welcome, we shouldn't be silenced. We were for too long. We've been able to speak now for about, you know, it's 18 months or 2 years since we've been able to take this thing into the media and get wider awareness of just the harms that this ideology is proposing. When
I hear, just to finish up, I saw a banner there saying trans rights. I'm just going to say one thing. I'm not getting involved to say this. Kids' rights to develop normally and naturally. Teenage girls' rights. You are forever welcome on this station and this show. I completely agree and support everything that you do. Heather Binning, thank you so much indeed, founder of Women's Rights Network. So it's a busy old day. Drink driving down to a pint, anti-pubs, anti-freedom. No doubt Julia will be talking about that. Boots on the ground in Ukraine. Many of you saying, hold on a minute, we can't even defend our own borders. Let's take a couple of quick calls. In Hampshire, Lanyon. Is that right, Lanyon?
That's my first name, yes, Lanyon Hefty.
Brilliant. You got 30, well, about a minute. Crack on. What you got?
Pleasure to speak to you first time. Yes, from the Road Transport Research Laboratory report 232 from many decades back, the actual breakdown in drink driving, I remember, was actually 14% rather than 20%, and half of those were actually not drink driving offences, in my opinion. They were drunk pedestrians being hit by cars, therefore it was classified as a drink-related accident, which they then all lumped together. Same principle with the speeding, where that if you're travelling at, say, 5 miles an hour and skid on black ice down the camber and hit another car, it's classified as a speed-related accident because you had a skid.
I think you're wrong to call it black ice. I think that's fundamentally not allowed anymore. But Caucasian, right? I really appreciate your call. That sounded very technical. This is the big news story of the day. You know, none of us want to in any way do anything other than be against drink driving. But we've got a government that says, of course it's only saying it, we're going to bring down the limit. You only have 1 pint. We might put stuff in your cars to stop you doing this, that and the other. My question is, does that take more from our liberty? Is it a nanny state? What does it do for the pub industry? Let's say a very good morning to Kevin in North Yorkshire. Kev, 1 minute, my son. What's happening?
Well, it's just the same issue, really. I think that it's all about control again. You look at the figures for Scotland; they've downed the prescribed limit, and their rates have gone up. England's are static and going down, so it doesn't work. I think it's more about social control. I think it's usual socialist stuff. I was talking to Peter Cardwell last night about the same issue with... Have
you recovered from that? Are you okay?
Not quite. I'm still getting over it. But at the end of the day, they're talking about the spectacle test for eye test for over 70s. It's the same thing. It's engineering. It's engineering to stop people using the roads. They want people off the roads. They want people localised. They don't want them moving about, and it smacks of that. You struggle to think it when the facts and figures show opposite to what they're saying. Then you've got to look for other reasons for why they're doing it.
Kev, you're a legend. We love having you on. Really appreciate it. Don't think be rude. We have to finish there. 5 to 10. Julia's on her way soon.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm very excited, ladies and gentlemen. It's 2 minutes to 10 and I got the heating right. I'm so excited, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Honestly, I live in fear, man.
Thank goodness we've got the heating on. It's absolutely icy out there.
We don't need the heat because we've got heat between us.
Oh, God, this again.
Come on.
Oh,
what do you reckon?
Can someone get HR?
No, sod. What do you feel about workplace banter, by the way? Do you know what we call Damien now? G-Spot, because you can never find him. Come on,
Listen,
Jules.
yesterday I had to message my much younger producer, whose mum's younger than me, for goodness sake. I had to message him with a picture of me, Grok had mocked up in a bikini. And I said, if that isn't an HR, I don't know what is.
Your producer mocked up a picture?
No, I had to send him because it was a story we were doing.